Hello.
What is the
We're live, by the way.
Called?
We're live.
Yeah. What is the event called? When the dogs, they'll do like the little slalom thing and they go through the tunnel and then they go up the ramp and then they go down the ramp. What is that? What is that event called?
They have a bunch of them, but I think the biggest one was like.
Well, it's not. I don't just mean like the
Yukonuba or something.
No, I don't mean that one. Not the show, but the what is it called?
Oh, what's the event called? Like where the dogs run in an obstacle course kind of thing?
Yeah, obstacle course maybe. Because there's a video that I've been seeing on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know.
And actually it came up on TikTok too. But I wanted to find the OG source for it. And
I'm gonna share the stream so people know we are finally live.
Old dogs on an agility course. Maybe this TikTok might do it.
I'll say, okay, we're finally live on TikTok. After fixing the technical problems. Kinda. Sorta. Maybe. Get in here. All right, cool.
That's right.
All right. What were you looking at?
Oh, I just saw this video. It was this old dachshund doing like an agility course at one of
like a little wiener dog?
one of these shows. And it's clearly an old dog. Like it's got to be like 10, 12-year-old dog because he's just like ding, 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 ding,
sure.
trying their best, and dodging and stuff. But he's so slow, and you can tell like this is probably the last event, the last dog in the list and stuff. But it's super cute because like at first this dog's like really, really slow, but then about halfway through, you can see the dog's like really getting into it and like doing their best, and it's just super cute.
Oh, they get like a second wind, like from everybody like cheering and stuff. It's like yeah.
You can tell like they're getting jazzed about halfway through and really putting it. And the fucking bar that they jump over is like 4 inches off the ground. It's so cute because like at the very beginning they're doing the rod dodging thing and it's just barely walking like do. It's really cute.
No, that sounds cute. Yeah, no, put a link to that in chat so people can go and see
the one I saw at least on Twitter.
Because that is pretty cool. That's like something that'll cheer people up.
Yeah,
it's time to post that word. Hey, today we're gonna avoid drama. Okay, today we're you can't avoid all of it.
I rant.
We're gonna rant because there's no way to do a show like this without rant. But we're gonna try to avoid like the drama.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about Linus and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, we should probably just outright say it because people will be like, "Oh, you didn't mean that." Yeah, I'm done.
And besides, like everybody knows my thoughts on any of that stuff. So.
Yep. All I care about is that Honey gets fucked in the end. That's all I care about.
Yeah, right.
Everything else can be figured out by other people, but I'm just glad. Hey, aside from all the drama, I'm just glad that people are finally looking at Honey after all these years, and waving a gun in their direction after everything they did to the fucking creator community.
I think just in a general sense, and this is something that's come up quite a bit on the show. Is like, I'm tired of the general toxicity.
Same
that surrounds gaming. That surrounds tech in general.
It sucks you in. It totally just like it sucks you in, and then it makes you angry, and then you don't enjoy anything because now you're sucked into this thing that you didn't even want to be a part of in the first place.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like that. I don't want somebody on. So it was just before the stream. Jerry heard me ticky-tacking away. He's like, "Who are you arguing with on the internet?" And I'm like, "This guy put out." So the Switch 2 has been announced. Yay, new Switch! Awesome. It's great. It's it's really cool. I'm stoked. I'm
do you guys want to hear all the specs? I can tell you all the specs and everything.
But some guy posts on Twitter saying, LCD screen at 1080p in 2025, like. And it's like, bro, first off, nobody's said that it's going to be an LCD screen. It might be because then they could do a refresh and do an OLED like they did the first time around.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and then the pirate software shit. I don't want to fucking deal with that either. That's so fucking dumb. It's freaking World of Warcraft. Grow up. Who cares?
I saw that.
Who cares?
I literally saw that, and I was like, why the fuck are there so many videos reporting on somebody playing a video game and doing something like? How is that even like reportable? I guess unless this game decided like $1 million prize
No.
for like the team or something.
Honestly,
there's no
it's
reason.
Leroy Jenkins level of like bullshit.
Yeah, I
guess. From what little I've seen of this and put together, like I know here we are talking about drama. We say we weren't.
No, but Leroy Jenkins is celebrated, right? He's celebrated as like this funny thing. No, at the time the team hated him.
Fucking pissed. Yeah, and that's where we're at right now.
No, but it's not just the team. It's like everybody seems to be hating on him right now.
Yeah, they're picking sides.
Yeah,
right?
It's weird, man.
Because I guess because he claims to be the best of the class and ran, he was going to die anyway.
I watched it.
How is it?
I don't know. Hey, I don't know a lot, but I watched it, and it looked like he's just playing the video game, and he did what he thought he needed to do to not die.
Exactly. It was a hardcore server, so if he dies, his character is basically deleted.
So yeah, I think people need to just calm down, man. It's just what happened to video games being fun? Is it a job now? Like playing a video game? Like I have to sit there and shake when I'm flying an airplane in flight sim because if I crash, somebody's really going to come in my house and kill me. Like what? Why?
I don't want to get too into it.
So much for drama, bro.
Only seen bits
Why did you bring this up? No,
I'm sorry. Yeah, but it popped up in the chat. But even still,
I know. I'm just playing.
It's so dumb how deep into it people are getting in their feelings.
I agree.
Like who cares? Okay. And then so what if he dies? Then what? He burned his mana. I don't even know what that fucking means. Burning the mana. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I
don't care if he burned his computer or disconnected the connection. I just don't care.
I didn't bring it up.
It's a video game. I don't care.
Theodoros brought it up, but still.
God damn it, Theodoros, you fucking homewrecker.
I shouldn't have even. But Alpha Wolf, you're kind of right. I should not have gone down this path.
Hold on.
To begin with.
Hold on though. I want to jump in here and say that this isn't the same as normal drama because we're taking the position of it shouldn't matter. We're taking the position of why is there drama in the first place. We're not joining the drama. We're saying there shouldn't be drama because it's just a video game.
It reminds me years ago, Summit 1G used to be a big CS:GO streamer. I think he's a bit more variety streamer now. Still does a lot of like FPS and stuff if I remember right.
Yep.
But he was in a tournament. Not a big tournament, but a tournament. And he had won the match. He was like the last one, right, on his team. Had won, killed all the other. They had killed all the other team, but then he walked into his own Molotov and died, and technically lost because I think he was on the terrorist team, and because all the terrorists died, the CT team wins or something like that. Made a mistake. And screwed it up, and he got a lot of backlash for it. It's the same kind of thing. It's the same thing. There's literally no stake in any of this other than the desire of an individual to like keep their character
right.
Maybe could have done better to help his team out, the guild that he was in and stuff like that. But like,
as I understood it, there was no good outcome. Like no matter what he did, there was no good outcome. Like
I don't think so. It was going to be like a team wipe or something. It doesn't matter. But like people are taking whatever. I don't know enough about what actually happened to have a big opinion. I suppose I shouldn't have made comment on what actually happened. I should stick to commenting.
As I understand it, he just backed up his position. Like he basically said, "Hey, I did what I did because I would have died anyways," and he's standing with that. And everybody wants him to like have a formal apology and get up on the podium and be like, "Oh, I abandoned my team and I admit I was wrong and I'm really a shitty player." But that's what they want from him.
It's the aftermath.
But it's why would anybody play a video game if that's what it's like, though? That's the thing. Is this is why I stopped playing Minecraft. I used to play Minecraft. People probably don't remember this unless you watched me for years. Like we're talking back in 2008 to 2012, right? Like if you watched me back in those days, I used to play Minecraft all the time. But then all of a sudden, every Minecrafter became a pedophile overnight. Every Minecraft game, people would just come in and troll you and call you a piece of shit. And then your audience would just infight over like, oh, he's good at it or he's bad at it, or why does he even play when he sucks this bad? And it's like, well, I suck at the game, but I enjoy playing it. Like that's the thing. I don't have to be good at a game to enjoy it.
I had the same encounter. I was goofing in CS:GO. I literally joined a casual server on purpose because I am terrible at CS:GO, at CS in general. Like I'm not a good at multiplayer FPS games. I joined a casual server on purpose because I like gun game, or I think it's called gun game or something like that, where like every kill it gives you a new gun and you're trying to get all the way up to like the golden knife thing. And I'm terrible. I'm not that good. And I start getting all kind of backlash in the chat. Like, oh, you suck. What the fuck are you even doing here? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, it's a casual server. Where the fuck else am I supposed to go?
Right. Like,
you know what I just noticed? This isn't the place to be for sucking.
I don't know if this is a coincidence, I don't know if this is a coincidence. Sorry to change topic really quick, but I just noticed it said somebody subscribed named Eric Hansen. And I worked with an Eric Hansen at Microsoft for a very, very long time, considered the dude a mentor. And I'm wondering if this is actually him or if it's just a coincidence and it's another Eric Hansen. It just says Stream Elements. It left a message in chat and said, "Thank you for subscribing, Eric Hansen."
It's got to be on Twitch. It's not here. It didn't pop up on the YouTube.
Oh, it didn't? Oh,
no, it's not in the, or at least it's not in the funding.
Let me look. Well, I have all the Twitch notification things disabled in ground control, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to show up and chat with the bot.
Which by the way, thank you, Jordan Miller, for $9.99. He says, I can't watch live, but wanted to stop in to show my appreciation. Do you guys think we will someday have AI-enabled driven in-home robots that can fold laundry? My wife says, hell no, but I need it.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
They've already have
in our lifetimes too.
Japan already has some caregiving type robots.
They do.
I'm not sure as to their full functionality, but it's sort of it's like an assisted living sort of situation where like they can help the resident, like maybe I don't know the full capabilities, but I imagine it's some simple stuff of like helping them get up or
apparently robots took over CES. I've seen so many videos of robots at CES. Like, did you see the little Roomba with an arm that picks up socks and shit? I thought that was kind of cute. That's cool. That's a good idea.
What drives me nuts is I don't think that helper robots should be in a human type form. The human form is terrible. Okay, we're grossly inefficient for the shit that needs to do it. Like I understand that it needs to conform to how we have built like society and stuff. Like it's similar to like being someone really tall when all of the countertops and shit are built for people who are like 5'10", you know?
Yep.
It's like, it sucks. It's a similar sort of thing. There are more efficient shapes. I don't want a bipedal robot in my house. That doesn't make sense to me. It should be a little wide. It should be on tracks or some sort of wheels. Like we've figured out how to get wheels upstairs and things like that. I just think that like there's better, more efficient shapes to accomplish even the things that humans have become very efficient at doing.
I agree.
And we should be focused more on getting the job done well than trying to make them like this weird uncanny valley sort of like pleasing aesthetic human shape. It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, so just to counter that a little bit, I do understand why they want to make things more humanoid looking.
Yeah.
And that's because a lot of humans that aren't tech savvy like us have a hard time, especially older people, have a hard time relating with technology that doesn't have some form they're familiar with. Because they almost feel unsafe. Like I read an article where it talked about how people, like when you see a robot that has like 5 arms, right? Like it has 5 kooky arms on it and shit. You're kind of scared of it, right? Being around it because you're like, man, this thing could fuck me up, right?
Yeah.
But if it's a bipedal robot, even if it weighs 600 pounds and it has hydraulic pistons in its arms, you see it as a humanoid form, so you don't feel threatened by it because you kind of like know how it works, right? Even if you don't know how it works, just the appearance of it, you think you know how it works. Therefore, it's like security theater at the airport, right? It's totally the TSA factor. So that's why I believe that the humanoid form is still something that we should aspire to make robots follow, even though it's wildly inefficient, but maybe not in areas where efficiency is required.
Yeah.
Like if it's a companion robot, like absolutely, right?
Somebody said here is like, I want a robot with legs and feet. That way it can carry me to the bathroom. I said, tank treads and big soft paddle arms can do the same thing. Like big, could you imagine big scooper, big pillow scoops instead of fingers and stuff?
Yeah.
Fingers are dumb. The whole thing is just dumb.
Dude, imagine a robot. Like, have you ever seen that experiment they do where you take a stick and you wrap a paper towel around it and then you pour some ketchup or some fluid on the counter and then you put the stick with the paper towel of it right over the spill and then you anchor the bottom and slide the stick forward and it slides the ketchup up onto the paper towel. So it like lifts it and then you can do the opposite and it deposits it back on the surface.
Neat.
And so there's a couple of YouTube videos where people have made machines that do this, like with a drill where it's like you forward and reverse, right? Pick up the thing, set it down, pick up the thing, set it down. And it's really cool. Imagine if you had a large version of that was like a really padded belt, like a conveyor belt, right?
Yeah.
And so it comes over and you're on the couch and it just sticks that under you. It slides under, no friction, completely frictionless. It slides under you. You don't even feel it. And then it lifts you up, takes you and deposits you into bed. And then like pulls it. You wouldn't even know it. Like you'd be asleep. It wouldn't even wake you up in the process. A humanoid form couldn't do that.
I'd love to hear you two talk about Hyundai buying Boston Dynamics. What?
That happened a long time ago, Jordan.
Did they?
Yeah, they bought them a long time ago. That was, I think that was like
Good
2
for
years
them.
ago. I don't know if the deal just went through now, but yeah, that happened a while ago. So, and the reason that they sold the Hyundai was because they were having a hard time with funding to advance their projects because they weren't selling as many contracts to them, as I understand it. They weren't selling as many contracts to the military as they had hoped. Like they had a couple military contracts, but they just weren't at the level that was funding the project. So Hyundai stepped in.
Gun's not going, huh?
So yeah, you're right. So Hyundai stepped in and they were like, listen, we want to do robotics with our cars and our assembly of our cars and in our factories, and we want our cars to have robotics. Like they said they even want to implement robotics, like robotic arms in a vehicle.
Johnny Cab.
Like where it crawls. Like instead of wheels, you have arms and it can walk. Your car walks up and it can go up like any terrain and stuff. Man, so Hyundai has
Ghost in the Shell kind of stuff.
Hyundai has some cool ideas, man.
Good for them. Good for both of them. Boston Dynamics and Hyundai. I despite some of the issues that I've had with Hyundai in like with vehicles and things, I think they've made such a tremendous improvement across the board in like the last.
They're not even the same company.
I'd say 15 years. Like probably starting in about 2015, 2012.
Dude, when we were teenagers, they got dunked on.
Hyundai sucked.
Like Kia and Hyundai were both considered the garbage brand. Like your first car you get that you just throw away and wreck into a wall, right? It's like that's your trash vehicles, right? Like Geo Metro was a step above them, right? Like it was bad, dude.
But not anymore. I would say it was like 2012, maybe 2010 ish.
You drive a Hyundai now, right? You have two of them. Don't you have a Velociter and an Icon? What is it? Iconic Ionic?
We just traded out the Ionic because it was there's too many weird problems. I think with the recent years, in more current years, because it was a 2022. The newer ones, much better. The EV or the Ionic 6, the 24 and 25 Ionic 5. I love my Veloster. The teenagers got a
the Veloster did great in rallycross. And rallycross they fucking dominated, man. Yeah, it was great.
But man, Hyundai has made a huge improvement over the last 10 or 15 years.
Kia made one good car. Was it like the Kia Stinger or something like that? What was the one that had like the big...
the Stinger.
Yeah. That was a cool car. That was a cool car, but nobody bought it because of the brand.
Dude, they're so cool.
It was a lot of power. It was fast, handled great, 4 doors, but they couldn't sell them because that badge ruined it. So they didn't sell hardly any.
I like my Veloster. It's good.
Yeah, no, I didn't drive it. I was a passenger in a Stinger, and I was pleasantly surprised with how much get up that vehicle had.
Yeah, they're cool.
Like it's legit fast. Like it's
Genesis is awesome.
Genesis. Yep, the Genesis is a fantastic vehicle. Genesis are pretty fast too. Like they're surprisingly fast.
Daewoo, that was fun. Does Daewoo even still make cars? I almost bought a Daewoo right after high school.
So Daewoo had a massive recall where like every car they made had a transmission issue that caused the transmission to blow up within the warranty period.
Damn.
So like everybody I knew that had a Daewoo car back in the day, like when they first came on the market, and like people were like, oh, Daewoo, and they buy them because they were cheap. The transmissions and all of them grenaded. All of them. So
I don't know if I could trust. At first, I was like, I don't know if I could trust like a microwave company to buy to make a car. But then Mitsubishi, right? So
there's a lot of companies that make everything, right?
Yeah.
But imagine what is the most expensive part in a internal combustion car? It's not the engine. It's not the engine. It's the transmission.
Yeah, no doubt. It's very
by a lot. So it's like
automatic.
So when your transmission breaks, that's a problem. That's a little bit of a problem. They had airbag issues too. Yeah, a bunch of cars had airbag issues because that stupid recall. Even my car, I had to have the airbags changed out.
Opel equals Opel equals Vauxhall. That's funny.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that true?
My mom drove an Opel for a long time back when she was a kid. Opel did okay back then.
Dude, I thought Vauxhall was like worshipped in Australia. Like people love those things. Don't they make utes?
Oh, sneaking up on me.
Oh, you getting snuck up on?
No, not really.
You just got killed by a Daewoo Lenos MFer. Oh my god, dude! But the thing is, like, I'm sad that he sold his Ionic because the Ionic 5N, is it the N or the S? There's a new Ionic that just came out that has the N. Yeah, that thing's badass.
All the Hyundai N stuff is like that's like their sport their super high end sport.
Hyundai took a risk and did something no other EV manufacturer has done,
So cool.
and it is so cool. And what that is they basically said, we're going to make an EV that isn't about range, it isn't about efficiency, it isn't about all the things other EVs are about. It's about driving experience.
Dude, it's so cool.
So it is literally like a track car. Like you buy this little Ioniq, you can change the diff. Like side to side, back to front, power split. You can change like stuff like the.
You can even
everything on its dynamic.
Of, like make engine sounds come out of it and stuff.
Yeah. You can pick different engine sounds.
Yep. And you can. There's a setting where it'll actually emulate shifting.
Yep.
Like you'll get the jerk.
It simulates the jerk. It also has speakers and subwoofers outside. So people that I've talked to that said they stood next to it, it actually does sound like a real exhaust. Like they put the right hardware on it to generate enough noise in the right direction that it sounds like an exhaust.
It's goofy.
So I think it's cool. I think it's awesome.
Fun. Yeah, it's fun.
And it's not particularly like fast. Like it's not a Plaid or anything like that. It's not designed to like go in a straight line like a bajillion. It's quick though. It is quick. But it's a handler. Like everybody that drives it on the track, it's designed to slide. Dude. It doesn't have aggressive you can turn off the traction control entirely and just four-wheel drift that thing around a corner. It's badass, dude.
Even the regular one that I had, you put that shit in sport mode. Like I wish I could have raced somebody like for reals, because it was pretty quick. Like it's not 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds fast, but it's fast, and and you get that cool like in the middle of your gut, that pull feel like like a rocket taking off. It's so freaking cool.
You know what it reminds me of? Remember that car that they built for doing CGI in movies? I forget what they called it. It was like
it's not just movies. They'll do that for car commercials. It's
car commercials.
Frame.
What was
it's
it
just
called?
this weird frame, and they just paint the other car over the top.
Yeah, it's basically. But here's the cool thing about it is it has a dynamic wheelbase. So they built this electric like skateboard. And so what you do is it can extend side to side, so you can lengthen the wheels this way. You can lengthen the car this way. So basically, you can get it to align with any wheelbase of any production car. And then they CGI the car over it. It has like telemetry on it, so that it tells them exactly where the wheels are. So they go drive it aggressively, and then you just CGI a body of a car onto it, and it looks like that's the actual car driving. You can't even freaking tell. It's awesome.
That's why the disclaimer at the bottom, it says this is this is on a closed professional driver on a closed course or whatever.
Yeah,
it's because they're not actually driving that thing through the woods and shit. It's like on a track in some place in Germany or whatever, and they just paint in the car, and it's all virtual production, fake stuff. Yeah,
I'm asking the AI here.
It's so good.
The Blackbird. So yep, it's called the Blackbird.
Man, so good.
Yeah, so go to any search engine and just do a search for Blackbird car, and put in CGI too. But it's a shape-shifting car, and you can see there's tons of pictures on there that show you, but it looks like just a really low-slung, low to the ground, because the whole thing is it has to fit into every shape of car. Everything from low-slung sports cars up to SUVs to trucks. It can emulate them all, right?
I gotta say, I want to see more hybrids. So like I said, we traded out for
I feel like hybrid makes the most sense.
Hybrid.
Yep. Hybrid gives you the range. The range anxiety sucks with electrics, no matter what you do.
That was part of the problem.
It is for everybody, man.
Because like extent. It's fine for, I mean, honestly, for I would say for like 80 to 90% of the driving that we were doing, it was totally fine. It was not a problem at all. But for those times where we had to go to fucking whatever, middle of Oregon, or like all the way to fucking Spokane or something, you start sweating, because like especially like Spokane, there's a spot in Ellensburg. There's a spot in like halfway to Spokane, and then Spokane, and that's it. And like you barely make it to that halfway point. Yeah, and that is just like that's concerning. That is really.
And the only saving grace is that electric cars don't use much power when they're sitting still, like a combustion car does.
That's true.
So you pretty much know, within a couple of miles if you're going to make it to the thing or not, even if you're in stop and go in traffic, right?
Yeah.
But there's still times where that's not where people get comfortable and complacent and they don't make it. Because like the AC, like I guess in the old Teslas, they didn't use a heat pump. They used a resistive heater. And so people in the winter were using the resistive heater, and it was like draining the battery at like a mile every like 10 minutes or something.
Just turning the heater on the Ioniq, you'd lose like 30 miles range.
Yeah.
Just boop, like your estimate would instantly drop like 30 miles.
Dude, have you seen how efficient electric cars are once they get up to speed? Like, because they have such a low drag coefficient.
Yep.
Apparently, it only takes like, I think, 600 watts or something to maintain 60 miles an hour or something like that in a Tesla.
I love the look of the newer Priuses. Prii? I think they officially landed on Prii for multiple Prius. That was a decade ago or something. But dude, the Prius Pro looks really fucking cool, man. I think that's rad. Like I miss the old Honda Insight. I think it was the Honda Insight was the first full electric car.
Oh, sorry, I was wrong. Not 600 watts, 6 kilowatts.
Okay.
But still 6,000 watts.
Yeah,
Think
dude,
about that. That's just like 3 circuits in your house is all it takes
nothing.
to keep that car going 60 miles an hour down the freeway.
2 pounds. Thank you so much.
We got another one too earlier. I don't know if you saw that from Michael R. Media.
Yeah.
We love you, bro.
Yep. Have y'all ever played the Dishonored games? It's the most I've been into a game series in a long time. Highly recommend. Yes. It is very fun.
Dishonored, really cool, is that the old school like World War II era kind of thing, or what am I thinking?
Stealthy, steampunkish ish. It's alternate reality. Really, really cool, like stealthy.
Oh, this looks rad.
Kind of game. Very cool. Really good game all around. Great story. Cool atmosphere. The first one had, I'd say,
this actually looks janky really cool.
But really cool, very cool atmosphere, very cool, like combat stealth mechanics. And
I've definitely heard of it.
Liked it.
I've definitely heard of it. So
I have two. I have Dishonored and Dishonored 2. I don't think I got the one Death of the Outsider or whatever it is. I don't think I ever got
You know what game I'm waiting for right now?
GTA 6.
No, well, definitely. Come on, that's everybody's waiting for that son of a bitch. Whether you like Rockstar, I hate Rockstar as a company, but I need that game in my life. They better not botch that up, man. After all the hype, I swear to God. But no, Hitman Assassin or whatever.
World of Assassins or whatever.
Dude,
you know, this one is so much fun.
But there's a feature coming that got delayed, so it's not going to be out for a couple more months, and that's full VR support.
Get out
on PS5.
That'd be fun.
So PSVR 2. It might have VR already on PC. I haven't checked, but I'm waiting for PS because it's enhanced for PS5 Pro. Okay. So I have a PS5 Pro on loan, and Adam still hasn't asked for it back, even though it's like a month past when he said he was going to ask for it back. So don't tell Adam. I'm going to camp on it as long as I can. I've been loving it. So the PS5 Pro has an enhanced version of this, the Hitman game, but you can play it in fucking VR, dude. And so when the patch comes out, you're going to be able to dual wield. Because in the game, when you play it in normal mode, you can only hold one thing at a time, right? An item. But in VR, you have 2 hands, so you'll be able to have 2 items from your role that you can independently switch between both your hands and use them at the same time. And I was like, dude, that's going to be rad, because you'll be able to walk in, like grab a gun, pop somebody in the head, use the other hand to grab their body as they're going down, and then drag them and throw them into a locker. Yep. So so it's going to be much faster. It's going to be way faster paced than playing with like a keyboard, mouse, or a joystick or something like that. But but that game, how do they get away with like the celebrity shit? Like, have you seen where it's like they have like missions where it's like you kill like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but they just name him something different, but it's clearly him, like 100%.
Well, that's part of how you get away with it. Parody, right?
That's true.
Parody is totally okay. But they did an event where I think you're legit hunting Conor McGregor.
Yeah. I watched that one.
Name. Like he partnered with them in that. So
they don't call him Conor McGregor, but his tattoo says Conor in the game.
It looks exactly like him.
Let me see if I can find it here.
They teamed up with him officially to do that.
Yeah, it's his voice. Yeah. They literally even have his tattoos. So Hitman, let me see here. So Hitman, here you go. It says you can kill Conor McGregor in Hitman's new DLC, and it says, let me see if I can find the name that he has in the game. Elusive target in Hitman World Assassinations, available in all versions of the game as of June 29th. Let's see here. McGregor's Hitman character is known as the Disruptor.
Oh, the Disruptor.
So in the game, he's called the Disruptor. But the funniest thing is his tattoo when he's in the ring, because he's literally in an octagon in the game, and his tattoo literally says McGregor on his chest. Good. Even though in the game they refer to him as they never call him McGregor through the whole mission. Because I watched it on YouTube. Somebody was playing through and like showing like funny ways. Dude, there are so many ways that you can complete the missions. That's what I love. Is I feel like it has infinite amount of replayability. Basically,
yeah.
Like, I watched a guy who did a speed run on the Jean-Claude Van Damme one, because what you're supposed to do is you got to kill the clones or something like that. Like, he has these clones that look just like him, and they're all numbered, and you have to go through the mission is you have to kill all the clones, and then you have to kill the main guy, right? So somebody played it backwards where they speed runned it, like jumping off of balconies and doing all kinds of stuff, and they were able to kill all the clones before they even met the guy, which is the beginning of the mission. So they walk in and they meet the guy, and the guy just looks around, and he's like, none of his clones are there, so he can't do any of the things, the demo of the clones. So he's just like, huh. And then he just like does the splits on the ground and just sits there and waits because he's got nothing to do, and then you kill him and you beat the mission. But I was like, there's so many ways that it lets you, creatively carry out the assassination. I mean, there's even people that just go through and kill everybody. Like I watched one where it's like dude just picked up the gun from a security guy, emptied the clip into the other security guy, grabbed his gun, emptied it into the next guy, and just speed ran the entire level, just killing everybody. Yeah.
It's very cool. Yeah, they did a great job with that newest Hitman thing. It's really good. And
the graphics are good too. Have you seen it when it's like full ray tracing on and everything? It looks like it almost looks as good as Indiana Jones.
I don't ever turn on ray tracing for anything.
So okay,
well, I'll do DLSS sometimes, which I probably don't really need.
I was going to say that's a topic I do want to talk about because that came up a lot in the suggestions for topics, and that's DLSS. Yeah, is it a lie? Is it deceptive?
5070 is not going to perform like a 4090.
Obviously. Ugh. So this is the thing. There is a lot of, and even somebody even on X this morning kind of got into me. Well, I won't say they got into it with me because it's text back and forth. Like you can't just infer that, right? Drama.
Where's your drama button?
I know I need my drama button. Like, drama. Oh, to bring it back. But no, he messaged me because I was telling people about this program called lossless scaling that I use. And it's a really cool program. Totally worth, like, I think it's like $5 or $9 or something. It's totally worth it. 100%. Pay the money. Also, fun tip, if you do have it, right click on it in Steam, go into properties and change it to the beta release. Because the beta release actually has a better upscaler, a better frame doubler with half the latency, and it has I think it has more support for like the Nvidia. If you have an Nvidia graphics card, it has like more support for the acceleration because the first version was more FSR, which is AMD technology.
Right.
Nvidia can do FSR because AMD, being the nice people they are, like open source all their shit, so like Nvidia can use it, but then Nvidia doesn't do the same. So it's not very nice, right? It's like FreeSync and G-Sync, right? So, but anyways, there's more support for like Nvidia graphics cards over AMD graphics cards. But what lossless scaling does is, I don't know how the hell they're getting like such fast access to the frame buffer. It almost feels like it's hardware. It's weird. So you can point it at a screen, a window, a full screen window, a borderless window, or just a window on your desktop, like minimize, like, only a quarter of the size of your desktop. You select a window, you assign a hotkey, or you can push the button and it starts the scaler. And you select whether you want it to be upscaled, what engine you'd like to upscale with, and if you want to frame double or triple or quadruple, all the way up to 20x. You can go up to 20x frames. So if you have a game that's 2 frames per second, you can get that sumbitch up to like 40 frames per second, right? Not optimal, but anything up to about 4x frame doubling, which would be like the equivalent of like DLS's multi-frame shit they're doing with the new cards that allows them to say technically that it's the same FPS as a 4070, but that's the thing. It's the same FPS. It's not the same image quality. It's not the same thing being rendered. It's not the same inputs. It's not the same sampling. There's a lot of things that aren't the same. They can just say the FPSs are comparable, right? So lossless scaling does the same thing, but it does it in software. Now, to be clear, the person that was kind of upset with how I was representing it made it clear it's not DLSS. No, it is not. It's not DLSS. DLSS is a hardware solution. In FSR, same deal. FSR and DLSS are hardware solutions to frame doubling.
No. It's super scaling. It's a resolution thing. It's upscaling. It's upscaling the textures.
What is AMD's version of the frame doubler then? Because DLSS does frame doubling, and now it does multiple frame doubling.
I thought that's separate.
It does both. It does scaling and frame doubling
separate from the scaling. So I have to say that I don't know enough to say.
So DLSS creates more frames. So it actually creates more frames, intermediate frames in between the frames. Okay. So, but it also does upscaling too, depending on what you set the quality. When you set the quality slider to like quality or performance, when you have it on performance, it's basically rendering at like 1080p and then upscaling to 4K and then doing the frame doubling. So it's doing both at the same time.
The talk about DLSS 4 is it talks about multi-frame. So maybe it's the same for AMD's FRS.
It is. Too. As far as I understand it, it is. So lossless scaling is the software solution to that, but uses the hardware to achieve it. So the difference being is instead of using DLSS to create more frames, it uses these software AI engines that run using the GPU. So you can have like a separate GPU in your system, have that GPU use lossless scaling uses that GPU to create the intermediate frames that are being rendered by the primary GPU, and that way it doesn't kill your performance in your game. Right.
That'd be interesting.
And I want to do
like
this.
A 58 Intel 5080 thing in there.
That's what I want to do.
To some cheap $250 nonsense and push it for that. Ooh, that'd be interesting.
So this is what I want to try. Because as far as I understand it, fluid up to like 2x or 3x frame doubling, like you don't need a ton of power, right? You don't need an astronomical amount of power. Oh, Jordan, thank you for the $5, dude. He said, got to take off on YouTube. Thank you guys. Thank you, Jordan. We appreciate that, brother. We appreciate all that support. Genuinely, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, like every little bit helps. It genuinely does. So, okay, so Ian said AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution, AMD FSR3 technology is a combination of super resolution, temporal upscaling technology, and frame generation. Okay, so yeah, it's the same as DLSS. It's just different name.
In frame rates in supported games. Okay,
so lossless scaling currently supports LS1 and FSR directly, right? But it does have NVIDIA cards can do FSR. Like you can, if you select FSR, it will use the GPU to do it, right? I don't know if it's using DLSS, but it does use the tensor cores to achieve it. So now what you do is you pick a window, right? Let's say you have what I use it for is like one video. Like if you're playing back a video that's like 24 frames per second and you like smooth motion, you can use it just to put it on the screen, and anything that's currently being displayed on the screen will go up to the frame rate and the resolution that you select with almost no lag. It's like it adds like I think 20 to 30 milliseconds of lag, which is imperceivable to most humans.
Yeah, don't do this if you're competitive.
Yeah, if you're competitive, this is no good, right? If you literally care about an MS.
And if you're in comp stuff, you're going to drop your shit to 1080p and all that jazz anyway. So,
yep. So
to get 400 frames per second.
So here's the difference between DLSS and lossless scaling. Okay, one is a hardware solution, one is a software solution. DLSS has access to a lot more data. So lossless scaling, all it knows is 2 images. It's looking at the last image that happened and the current image that's about to be displayed. That's it. It takes those 2 images, and then it does AI inference using something I think it's called like not FSR, something like there's an algorithm, right? So it uses this algorithm that's really, really fast, that is super optimized, and it generates the in-between frames. You can either do 1, 2, 3, or 4 frames. Anything after that, it starts just murdering your hardware, right? So you tell it how many intermediate frames you want, and it generates those transitional frames. Here's the problem, though, is that it doesn't have any data on what the game is setting up. It's not being described, right? With DLSS and FSR, the game is actually describing. That's why the game has to implement support for it, because it does the inference for the in-between frames, right? But the way it does it is different. First of all, the image it gets has no heads-up displays. Any heads-up displays are fixed items that are in the field of view. When you implement DLSS or FSR, you don't render those until you send those frames to DLSS. So basically, you send it a naked frame without the HUD. And that way, when it generates the intermediate frame, your HUD isn't getting all distorted and shit, right? So that's the first thing DLSS does. It has a ton of shit. I won't be able to list it all. But that's the first major thing it does. The other thing it does is it tells you what direction you're moving in from image A and image B, and how fast that motion is happening, right? From the perspective of the camera in the game. So because it has that information, the AI can run an algorithm that's more precise, saying, listen, if this pixel's here and this pixel's over here, I know that it's moving in this direction, with much more certainty, I can determine what those intermediate frames are going to look like based on the speed that the character is moving, so that you don't get these weird blur effects and artifacts and shit when you're whipping the mouse around, right? So you get a lot more data, right? The whole temporal smoothing thing. And now I guess in DLSS 4, they even have like a ray tracing engine where the ray tracing doesn't get applied. Like it's like a regular like raster image, and then it does like the transition, and then it does like a quick and dirty retrace of the light separately, and then overlays it so the intermediate frames are ray traced, but they're like not using the full might of the ray tracer, just like the renderer, to implement it, right? So it does all this crazy shit. So yeah, they're not comparable. They're not apples to apples at all. However, if you have a situation where you have a game that you can't get over 30 frames per second, right? Anything under 30, you would never want to do this, because the input lag is based on the world loop in the game, because it only samples the keyboard input and the mouse input as many times as it cycles in the game. So if you have 30 frames per second, that means the world loop is running roughly 30 times, right? So that means you have 30 times in a second where your input can be sampled and applied, and then, the outcome shows up on the screen, right? So anything lower than that, you're definitely going to start noticing lag, like regardless of how fast it generates the intermediate frames. It's not going to matter. So, but if you're over 30 frames per second and you double that with lossless scaling, now you got 60. You triple it, you got 90. You do another, you got 120. Now your 30 frame per second game is now running at 120 hertz on your gaming monitor, and the input lag is tolerable. And if you use a separate graphics card dedicated to lossless scaling, you're not taking any performance away from the game, which means now you can render it 1080p with like in a window, like the quarter of the size of your screen, right? A little 1080p on a 4K desktop, with all ray tracing on, everything maxed out, ultra, and you're only getting like 30 frames per second. When you apply lossless scaling, it will blow it up the full size of the screen, that little thing. So now it's 4K, It'll apply the upscaling, algorithm so that it looks like it's as close to 4K as it can approximate, right? With as much detail as it can, and then it's going to do the frame doubling too, but it's all going to be done with a program versus actually hardware on the card. And the game doesn't have to implement anything, so it works everywhere. If it's on the screen, it works. So if you have a web browser, you can even apply it to Explorer if you want. Just like open up a web browser. Your web browser now is accelerated. You open up a video on YouTube, or you open up a game like I was using on Crazy Games. There's a site called Crazy Games where you can play like, HTML5 ripoffs of like Counter-Strike and stuff. It's just kind of a fun little place. Me and my son like to go and play these games that are on there. They're free. Yeah. And lossless scaling, a lot of the games are locked to like 30 or 60 frames per second for like competitive reasons, right? Because they're competitive games. But you apply this, and now you have 120 frames per second, but it's not a true 120 frames per second. The game still thinks it's running at 60 because it is. So nobody on the other server knows, right? So technically, I'm having a smoother experience. Now, the downside is there is more lag added. So technically, if it's a really competitive game or something like that, that will matter. And here's the thing. Even if it's imperceivable lag, it still matters, because when you push that button, the time it takes from you pushing the button to get the action to happen is highly dependent on how many times those things are sampled, right? So the higher your native frame rate is, the faster those actions are going to translate to the screen. Even if you don't feel any perceivable lag when you're moving the mouse around, it's still there. So if you're playing a person and they have that one little bit of edge where they have the higher true frame rate, even if you get more frames, they still win. It makes a huge difference.
Serious. Yeah. I've seen so many like side by sides of that. Like it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I want to say, long story short, I do believe that it is very deceptive of Nvidia to say, oh, this 4070 gets as many frames as your previous generation, like super expensive $2,000 card or whatever. It's like, listen, no, that's not true.
Was the same performance.
Yeah,
and
that's not true. That is not true.
To say you'll get the same frame rate, okay,
yeah.
Okay, I can buy that. But to say you'll get the same performance is misleading.
Because let me ask you this: would it be misleading if I told you, I can get the last generation graphics card to run faster than the new generation graphics card just by turning all the textures off?
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's
I lower my resolution to 720.
Yep.
Or 1200 by 800 or something, and now I get 7,000 frames per
second.
Right.
You run the benchmark, you get your million frames per second. You're like, I beat everybody in the world. Woo! But it's like, yeah, technically it's true. That card did get more FPS, but if you set the other computer to have the exact same settings, that wouldn't be the truth anymore, right? Yeah. Same thing here. If they take the 4070, and it can't be an apples to apples because one has multi-frame generation, the other one does not, right? So there is no apples to apples. But if they turned off DLSS and they compare them, there's only about a 20% difference between last gen and the new gen, which, don't get me wrong, for shrinking the card down to a 2-slot card, and only 25 more watts of power, and you're basically getting another 20% of performance on the 4090. I don't know about the other cards. That's pretty decent. Now, $2,000, it's a crazy price, but Nvidia charges it because they know they can get it, right? People are going to buy those cards. They're going to be sold out, guaranteed. But a lot of people aren't going to want to spend $2,000 just to get this like extra frame doubling, right? And if you can use DLSS single frame, because DLSS 4 will work on 4090s. I found this out. I thought that they were only doing it for the 50 series cards. But the only thing that's special to the 50 series cards is they can do multi-frame, which means they can do like 3 frames in between the frame. That's how they're able to get the insane frame rates, right?
Sure.
But the old cards, like the 4090 that I have, it can only do conventional DLSS where it adds 1 frame. There's just 1 extra frame. So it's like, now I've doubled my frame rate effectively. So now if I turn on extra features that drop my frame rate in half, I maintain the same frame rate with more quality, visual perceived quality, right? So that's the benefit that I would get, right? But here's the thing. I can take DLSS and then I can throw lossless scaling on top of it with a 2x modifier. And now DLSS does the one intermediate frame for me that's as clean as it can possibly be. And then I can have lossless scaling add another intermediate frame to give me another 50% increase to my frame rate, right? With less distortion than if I just had lossless scaling generate both frames by itself, right? Okay. So you can kind of like mix and match the technologies to get the result that you want. But the fact that lossless scaling can be this fast at all just blows my mind. Like, you can turn this damn thing on with like a Nintendo emulator playing Super Mario Brothers at 120 frames per second. Full screen, 4K, up-resed from like 320 by 200 all the way up to 4K with all the temporal smoothing and everything like that. And it runs flawless. It runs absolutely beautifully. And I don't notice any perceivable input lag. Now, this is just me, right? There's some people that are sensitive to even like wireless controller lag, right? Because it is there.
Oh, sure.
Like if you ever want to see like how much leg's on a wireless controller, get a PS5 controller, which is like one of the fastest communicating controllers as far as I know wirelessly, right? Yeah. Over what is it, Bluetooth Low Energy, BLE or whatever. So that controller, if you turn on the internal speaker in it, listen to the phase difference between the audio coming out of the wired speakers on your setup and the sound coming out of your speaker. And you'll notice when, like in Gran Turismo, certain sounds will come out of the controller, like when you crash and stuff like that. And you'll hear it come out of the speaker, and then just like a split second later, you hear it come out of the controller. Like you definitely know, it almost creates like an echo or a reverb. And that shows you like just how much lag there actually is. It is perceivable with the ear. It might not be perceivable with your controller. Because like when I'm playing the game using the controller or the steering wheel, I notice no perceivable lag between me moving the wheel and the wheel on the screen moving. However, if I record it on a camera and slow it down, I can clearly see there is a massive lag. So it's like, it just depends. Some people are sensitive to it. Some people aren't. If you're in a competitive game, it definitely does matter. But if you're just playing games by yourself and you just want high visual quality, or you're playing a game where input isn't the end of the world. Like FPS, obviously, you need, pixel perfect accuracy in some of these games, right? However, if you're playing something like Indiana Jones, where you're just running around clicking on targets, and killing them and dragging their bodies around and stuff like that, you don't really need that absolute flawless every millisecond matters. So you can trade that input lag to get more frames in higher quality, more ray tracing. Because I'll tell you right now, it is worth it in Indiana Jones. I'll tell you what, you open up Indiana Jones, max out everything on ultra, and it's like one of the most gorgeous games I've ever seen in my entire life. Like it is, the environments just will blow your freaking mind. Like it's a movie. You're playing a movie. And as a matter of fact, I think it requires ray tracing. Like I don't even think there's an option to disable ray tracing in this game. Damn. Because it was built from the ground up for it. And cool. So a lot of people disabled ray tracing. I'm sure you did too, right? You disabled ray tracing because it has a massive impact on your performance. Oh, yeah. I would rather have 120 frames per second without ray tracing than have ray tracing. But this is where it changes. And I think this is where Nvidia kind of knows their market, is the average user. Like I'm not talking about like the power users, the guys, the 1%ers that are playing like Counter-Strike and shit like that. But like just the gamers, the enthusiasts that enjoy gaming. Yeah. If they have an option to have full ray tracing, ultra textures, and have it just look like a gorgeous experience without compromising their frame rate and always keeping it above what their monitor can do, they're going to select that option. 99% of the time, they're going to select that option. The only reason that they would select the lower option is to maximize the FPS their monitor supported, right? So if my monitors are 120 hertz, anything that falls under 120 hertz, I'm going to lower the settings until it gets to 120 hertz, because I don't care about FreeSync and all that shit. I want my 120 hertz. If my screen can display 120 frames, I want to see 120 frames.
Right, do it.
So right, do it.
I'm paid for it all. I want it all.
I paid for it. You give it to me. Put the money on the fucking couch. So I want to get everything out of it that I can. But now I feel like with DLSS 3, I think 3 was like the really big turning point, and 4 is the next big one. Is even though they're technically fake frames, AI generated neural network, blah, 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 blah. The thing is, at the end of the day, for the average user, if it enables you to turn on a bunch of graphics settings to make the game look gorgeous, increase your view distance, give you all these really cool reflections, and it's worth it. To me, it's worth it. Like, it's absolutely worth it, especially if it's a one-player game, like a campaign-based one-player game. Then it's fine. I'd rather do that. Now I find myself, and just like Nvidia said, they said 80% of their users enable DLSS now if it's available in the game. Oh, and the truth is, so do I. I do now.
I don't even bother most of the time. I whatever the game decides, I just play. Yep. Unless I see some really bad screen tear, then I'll go in and I'll enable like VSync or whatever, because like I have a 60 hertz 4K.
Oh, I hate screen tear, dude. If I see screen tear, I'll turn VSync on all day long.
Normally I don't care unless like I'll notice, but it's like a little bit here and there. It's like whatever shit that happens. But man, there have been a few times where I'm like, holy fuck, this is really bad, and so I'll have to go in and fuss with it. Usually, all I got to do is turn VSync on, and it's fine. Yeah, because it's 60 frames. I mean, my monitor is 60 hertz. All I need is 60 frames at best. And
you can set VSync at 120. Also, if you have a 120 hertz monitor, you can VSync at whatever refresh your monitor is.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. Is I'll cap the frames at 60, and then also turn VSync on, or vice versa, whatever. Yeah. The thing is, VSync can actually be a really cool feature. And the other this was the other thing I wanted to talk about too, is the input lag stuff that Nvidia's added. So Nvidia added features in the 4, I don't know if they're in the 3 series cards, but certainly in the 4 series and definitely in the 5 series,
they have these settings that you can manipulate inside of the Nvidia app that allow you to enable ultra low input latency. Ooh. And the way that it works is most games try to pre-render frames, right? They try to get ahead of you. And that's where DLSS, everybody's like, oh, DLSS adds lags. Most games add lag automatically because they don't want you to have micro stutter. So what they do is they say you're a human being and you can, anything under 50 milliseconds, you're not going to notice as an actual, human being that's not a superhuman. We're going to use that extra time to render a couple more frames ahead and stick them in a buffer.
Yeah.
And so a lot of games will do that so that if there's a micro stutter event or if something happens on the bus or whatever, they can go to those frames and eat them up and you don't get like buffering like you do on YouTube, right? So what the low latency stuff does now that isn't as big of a problem with modern hardware and operating systems and everything like that. Now you can go in and disable that frame buffering entirely. You can basically say, I want the frame that's rendered, I want it to skip every single mechanism that's used to like cache and try to smooth out the experience. Just get that shit to the screen as fast as humanly possible. So the game gets your input, it processes your input, and the second that frame is ready for prime time, boom, it's shot to your monitor. And by doing that, you can lower the input lag in some of these games. I saw it go down by as much as 100 milliseconds in some games, which is a huge amount, right? That's a tenth of a second. And so when you combine that with DLSS, there's some games where DLSS with multi-frame rendering on the 5 series or single frame rendering on the 4 series, even with DLSS enabled, you have less lag than you did previously just with the buffering. So there's situations where it doesn't add to your input lag compared to the previous experience. Now, granted, on the same system and the same hardware, if you disable DLSS, you're even going to get less lag, right? So it's going to be the optimal experience is always going to be disable as much shit as humanly possible, ditch ray tracing, ditch DLSS, and try to maximize as many real frames as you can render as possible, disable all the buffering shit, get it as fast as screen. You could probably get down to where your entire stack is like 10 milliseconds, right? With your screen, your input on your ultra fast wired mouse and everything. So if you're a competitive gamer, sure, you can do that shit, right? But most people aren't sensitive to lag until it gets north of like 50. Some people don't even notice it over 100 milliseconds. Oh, Daniel Terry, you absolute legend, dude. Woo! Woo! Daniel Terry just hooked us up at $20. Make us holler. We appreciate it, brother. By the way, as of now, which input is fastest, HDMI or DisplayPort? I couldn't tell you, honestly. I couldn't tell you. I know DisplayPort carries what is it? HDMI. DisplayPort can carry an HDMI signal. And it also can carry a much larger audio stack and it has more throughput. But I technically don't know which one's faster because both of them I believe send a raw signal. So like the actual video portion of the signal that gets parsed out by the screen, that chip in your screen is adding more lag than the system that's sending it, as far as I understand it. So like here, well, let's just look it up. Which video protocol is faster for transmission of video over a bus, HDMI or DP? Let's see what we got here. Hopefully I don't start getting DP videos popping up. That'll be awkward. Okay, video transmission over a bus, HDMI or DisplayPort. The following protocols are relevant. Okay, used for connecting monitors, printers, and other peripherals. That's HDMI. DisplayPort, digital interface for connecting monitors, projectors, and other display devices to the computer. Let's see here. The choice between these protocols depends on the specific requirements of the system, including video quality, latency. Oh, it does list latency. So let's see here. Comparing the top low latency video streaming protocols. Nope, that's not going to have it. Comparing the low latency streaming protocol, 6 best streaming. No, I don't want streaming protocols. Here, I'll just say, hey, which is faster to get the image on the screen? HDMI or DP? Let's see. Okay, so, not sure whether to hook up your new monitor. Because here's the thing. First of all, I want to say, I don't notice any difference. Because I play games across all 3 of my screens, right? So I'll open up Flight Simulator 2025, 120 hertz, all 3 screens working, right? I don't notice any lag, even not even a single pixel of screen tearing between the borders when I'm ripping the jet around and flying, right? So it is perfectly synced. And my left monitor is HDMI. My other 2 go through a DPI to HDMI converter. So they're not active. So I don't have like, USB, because some of the active ones are slow because you have to have power going to them. So they're passive adapters. But with those adapters, I notice no difference. So whether it's going out through DP and getting converted to HDMI or whatever and then sent to the screen, they're all exactly the same. But then again, I don't have a screen that has a true DP connection where it's actually getting a full DP handshake between the computer and the monitor. Because what's happened is my graphics card says, ooh, there's a DP adapter there. But then the DP adapter says, oh, but I only support an HDMI signal. So it's still technically sending an HDMI signal. So that's not really a good comparison. So HDMI 1.4 supports up to 4K at 4K at 24 hertz, 30 hertz, 1080p at 120 hertz, and then HDMI 2.1 supports 10K resolution up to 120 hertz, as well as improved HDR dynamics, DTX, Dolby Atmos, and DTS:X audio. What about scrolling down? DisplayPort. Here we go. Supports up to 4K at 60 hertz for the first spec. DisplayPort 2.0 supports up to 16K HDR. So quite a bit more bandwidth. So it doesn't say anything about lag, but a lot more bandwidth, right? Oh, holy shit. MT Boy, my man. Woo! Dude, MT Boy just hooked us up with another $20. Daniel Terry, you guys, thank you for carrying the show. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
He said, hey, Barnacules, much love from Montana. Love the channel. Has got me through some dark times. Keep up the great work. Thank you, man. I hope to actually getting back to making like real content again. It's been far too long, but I'm glad you enjoyed my backlog and you enjoyed me and my Prime, brother. Hope to get back there one day. Would I get curved screens, Gaming Matty Rocks asked? Depends on what I'm doing. Honestly.
I'm interested. I'm in the middle of planning to change out my desk and stuff, and I've been thinking about getting a curved. I've been generally against it, kind of like in a not for me sense. Like I know some people who love the fuck out of them and that kind of stuff. Yep. The thing is, I'm not sure that I don't want ultra wide, like 21:9 or whatever. I still want like a regular 16:9 ratio. And I don't think that's going to be, I don't think I can do that. I don't think they make a regular 69 that's a little curved.
No, they do. So, they do. They make full curved TVs, like with the standard 16:9 aspect ratio.
Okay, because I'd be down with that. I don't want it, because a lot of times
LG makes a lot of curved OLED panels too. So.
Some stuff doesn't work well at that sort of wonky resolution. What is it, 3120 at 1440 or whatever, like
1440p at up to 165 hertz. It's like weird standards, right?
Like I'm cool with 1440, like that's fine. It puts less stress on my graphics card.
True, 1440 is a good compromise for sure.
It's just the weird. I don't know that I want ultra wide like that. I don't know. It's weird.
So
and then I'll keep my 4K one a little above it.
Here's the problem you run into though, Aux, is and I wanted to get curved screens at one point because I was doing racing simulation. And I seen all these racing simulators where they have the curved screens, and when you put them bezel to bezel, it just looks like one arc. There's no like flat surfaces facing at you.
Wicked thin. Yeah.
Here's the benefits. Okay, the benefits up front is every point of the screen is equally bright because it's the same distance from your face. So when you're sitting back from a curved screen at about 3 feet, it's like if you look at the pixel up here, it's closer to you than the pixel in the middle. Therefore, they're the same distance when you go along the curve around you. Flat screens don't have that, so all flat screens have a problem where because of the inherent problems with the viewing angle,
they get a little bit of
they fall off a little bit. Yeah, they fall off a little bit. So when you're playing a game across 3 screens and there's a bright scene, you can definitely see like a little bit of a dark line on the side. That's a little annoying. The curved screen eradicates that. The other thing the curved screen does is that you don't have this like aggressive arc, right? You don't just go from flat surface to flat surface to flat surface.
Sure.
But here's where it sucks. Here, and this is why I ended up not doing it. But there is a fix for it, I found out. I just didn't know at the time.
Okay.
And that is every game that supports multi-monitors does not support doesn't have any curved option. You basically say this is the angle that the screen is at relative to your face. And then when it renders the image, it warps the image so that when you're sitting in the sweet spot looking at the center screen and you look at these screens from your peripheral vision or turn your head and look directly at it, the image is warped in such a way that the dashboard like perfectly continues out into space, right? So like if you're in a car, the dashboard would go across, and then on the side screens, it would look like it's at an angle if you looked at them straight on, but because they're bent in, it's all perfectly aligned, right? And it warps it for you, so it's almost like you have a curved display, but you're looking at it through flat screens. When you have the curved monitors, it doesn't make the correction for that, so the dashboards never look straight. Because the dashboard will go across straight on the center monitor, and then when it does the correction on the side, it warps and kind of bananas out.
What about that? What was that Nvidia thing where you could smush a bunch of monitors together?
Nvidia Surround.
surround?
It's a they have not maintained it.
It's trashed. Okay.
It's trash. Absolutely. As a matter of fact,
all right.
Games either have to have it native support for it, or you just make it a borderless window across all 3 screens. Just drag it across all 3 screens, turn it borderless.
Lame.
It sucks. I like how a Flight Simulator did it. The Flight Simulator actually lets you just add additional monitors. So it creates like a borderless window, borderless window, borderless window. You put them on whatever monitors you want. And then you just put in the angles, like where it is relative to your face and where it is relative to the other screens. And once you get all the measurements and stuff in there, it's like perfect. You get an absolute perfect display. And I mean, you can even measure the angle of the monitor using like a protractor or whatever and put the numbers in, and it gives you like you don't have to like fuck around. It just gives you the perfect representation. But with the curved screens, you get that warping. So a guy that I watch, I wish I knew the name of the program, but there's a program you can buy that does warping of the screens. Like just like lossless scaling can like double your frame rate. There's a program that for the curved screens, you input the curvature, like how many degrees the monitor's curved, how big it is, and how far it is from your face. And what it'll do is it'll take whatever image is projected on it from the game, and it'll bend it and warp it and change it so it basically looks like you're looking at a flat image, even though it's a curved screen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then that way it lines up across all 3 screens, and then it looks like, honestly, if you don't look at the top or look at the bottom and you turn out the lights in the room, it almost feels like you're in VR. Because it's just such a perfect representation across all of the screens, and they wrap around you. So it's like when you look out the side, you're looking out the side window of the car. When you look forward, you're looking out the dash as they wrap around your head, right? And it doesn't look all warped and distorted. However, if you take like 5 steps back, that's why they always record with a GoPro on their face or in their mouth. Because if you move anywhere else in the room and try to videotape it, it looks completely distorted. Because it's designed to only look right from your one spot you're sitting. If you deviate from that, by even like 6 or 8 inches, it starts warping and looking wrong. So you want to stay in that sweet spot. But honestly, for me, multi-mon gaming isn't something I do a lot anymore. I used to do it all the time. Now I do VR. VR is just so much better in every way for the stuff I do.
I've thought about getting those, the glasses, like those, there's a few different brands of that basically like you put on these specs and they plug in to your machine, and it's like a big 120-inch screen like right in front of you. And I've been curious about how those might work, because that'd be kind of fun.
Oh, sorry, I was talking to Adam in the chat.
Okay.
What'd you say?
Yeah,
say again.
I was thinking about those glasses. Like you can get those glasses.
The shutter, the LCD shutter, like 3D glasses, or
no. It like basically paints a big 120-inch screen right in front of you. They're like $200 or something.
I know what you're talking about. They're only 1080p though. They're I looked down. They're only 1080p.
Oh, that's okay.
And the other thing too is like they only project like a presence of a screen, and it's not locked to the environment. Like it moves with you. It's always in the center of the view, which would be a little weird for me playing a game.
It'd be no different than my monitor being right. I'm not looking around like VR style.
Right, but if you're playing like a racing game or a flight simulator and you turned your head, that'd be hugely disorienting if the image stayed fixed forward while you're rotating your head.
Point.
You know what actually is a cool compromise, though? Have you ever seen a Track IR? These things have been around forever. I own one.
I've seen about that too, yeah.
So the Track IR 5 is a very simple, it's remarkably simple for how expensive it is. It's literally just a little IR camera that sits on top of your monitor, and then you put 3 little LEDs attached to your headphones that just stick out on a little plastic arm. And these 3 little LEDs tell that camera based on the distance between the LEDs and their relationship to each other, because they're basically like distance different from each other. Yeah. It can tell exactly in 3D space where you are, like flawlessly. Like, and I mean, it's very sensitive, right?
It's cool. I've seen some, yeah.
But the cool thing about it is you'd think it'd be really awkward. It's not. You get used to it so fast. And the way it works is like, I used it when I was playing flight simulators on 3 screens back in the day. And I have some videos. If you go look for Barnacules Track IR 5, you can probably find them. But I play flight simulator, and what you do is you multiply your movements. So you go in and you say, listen, if I turn my head 5 degrees, in the game I want it to make that 50 or 80 or 100 degrees. And then you get it to where you want it. And then all you do is while you're flying, if you want to look at the controls, you keep your eyes focused straight ahead, but you just move your head slightly like this. And just by moving your head like this, you can look out the side, look out the back, look at the floor, look at the controls. Like, once you get used to it, you can look around the cockpit pretty much just like you're wearing VR goggles, but you're viewing everything on monitors, so it's a lot more comfortable, right? It doesn't fatigue you over time. It's fantastic. The X-Reel. Those are the ones I was thinking of.
Yeah, but I'm looking at their newest ones, and like you can anchor the screen.
Oh, that's badass. Okay.
Or you can have it follow so that it stays in front of you, even if you're moving.
Are they still 1080? Are they still 1080p?
I was trying to get a resolution because there's an ultra wide mode they're talking about.
It can do curved screens too.
Yeah, it'll do an ultra wide curve,
horizontally and vertically curved display. That's awesome.
And then he's saying side view, a mini screen for multitasking. But I'm curious about the resolution.
You know what these remind me of?
This has got to be better resolution. Than
I have. Have you ever heard of the Epson Move Arios? So I have two sets. I have I think V1 and V2 of the Epson Move Arios. And they are more targeted towards professionals, but I used to use them all the time when I traveled. Like if I was on an airplane, and what is this really futuristic looking glasses? People look at you like you're crazy. But they were basically, you put them on, and they had prisms in them with little LCD screens, and it would basically just like this, it would overlay an image in your environment. And you could also make it 3D. You could enable a 3D where it'd give you a different image in each eye with different screens, and then you'd get native 3D as if you were watching like a 3D projection in a movie theater with 3D goggles on, right? Yeah. And it looked pretty good, but the problem with it was you had to put on like these dark sunglass covers that were really awkward to get it to be a solid image, right? Otherwise, you were looking through a translucent image into a room like those new, OLEDs that they have that you can see through. And so I never really liked it for anything other than just like on an airplane watching movies. But again, it was always locked. Anywhere you looked, the image was right in front of your face, no matter what you did. I didn't like that.
It's still 1080p. It still says 1080p, 4 million pixels, 1080p, 120 hertz. Which I mean, bruh, for $500.
The problem is they have to put it through this little prism, and so the screen is only like a half an inch or something like that. It's itty bitty. So to get 8K on a screen that's only half an inch, that's really difficult to do, really expensive. So
why couldn't you do 1440 at least? Come on.
What they should do is just get rid of the prism and just use transparent OLEDs like they have at CES. They were showing, like, I guess LG was like showing off hardcore at CES this year, where like they had all these transparent OLEDs, like showing how you could just look through them like windows when they weren't displaying stuff. I was like, why not just put those in the glasses?
Could just DLSS up to 4K, right?
No, because in order
to resolution.
So in order to increase the resolution, you have to have the native resolution still be the higher resolution. Just the render resolution is lower.
That makes sense.
So, but there's another. This is where it gets confusing. There's another technology that technically is what you're describing. I think it's called super resolution. And that's where you basically take a 4K screen or a 1080p screen, and then you render everything in a resolution above that, and then you downsize it to the native resolution, and that gives you crisper textures. I remember they had this feature in GTA 5, in GTA 5, if you went into the menu, you could actually set what was called the render resolution. So you had the screen resolution, which I'd set to 4K, and then the render resolution, you could like slide the bar and go all the way up to, I think it was like 57 something by 40 something. And what it would do is it would render each frame at the higher resolution with the higher textures, everything. It used a shitload of video memory. And then it would downscale it to your 4K, and you'd get a crisper image. And I did notice a difference. Like, honestly, it looked similar to enabling like crispy anti-aliasing, if I'm honest, right? Okay. And anti-aliasing was far less expensive, so I opted for that. But it did work. And the neat thing about it is it works really good on distant objects. So if you have like really distant objects on your 4K, and you notice that they're kind of like blurry and hard to see because when it's rendering them or whatever, the environment just kind of like knocks down the texture quality. By rendering at the higher resolution, of course, it's using more pixels to render it, therefore it has more detail. And then when it downscales it, it keeps a lot of that detail. So, but I don't know of anybody that really uses that feature because it kicks the crap out of your graphics card. It shits on your frame rate. And honestly, I've never noticed a difference that I didn't have to pixel peep to see. And honestly, that's where I'm at with DLSS too. A lot of people are like, oh, pixel peep. Oh, there's a smear there. Oh, that person's hand isn't being drawn right in the background or whatever. It's like flickering a little bit or something like that. People that are sensitive to that are going to hate DLSS, right? But the average user that's just seeing the whole picture as a whole and focusing on the focal point, most people aren't going to notice any of that shit that's going on. And to them, it's just like, wow, more frames per second, more textures. This is amazing. And quite frankly, I have to say DLSS 3 is a home run because I played Forza Motorsport when it first came out on my 3080 that I had at the time. And it sucked. It ran like shit. It looked like shit. Like, I was actually embarrassed for Microsoft that they released this game with the graphics it had, because honestly, I thought they were worse than the previous Forza Motorsport. I thought Forza Motorsport, I think it was 7 or whatever, had better graphics. Like, I was like, why do the graphics suck so bad? So then I went into settings, on the 4090, I went into settings and I cranked up all the things to ultra, ray tracing on, everything. But then I was only getting, I think it was like 35 or 40 frames per second when I have a 120 hertz monitor, right? So I was like, this looks gorgeous. I was like, oh my God, this is how it's supposed to look. This looks amazing now, right? Full HDR. But the problem is it runs like shit. So then I go enable DLSS in the balanced mode, not quality, not performance, but balanced in the middle. And now I'm getting like 100 to 110 frames per second. But it still, to me, looked almost exactly the same. You notice like tiny little things, like every once in a while you notice like a tail light flickering, or like when you're playing a game, a texture doesn't load right like all the time and it might flicker or judder a little bit. That you'd see that every once in a while, but it wasn't imposing. Like you didn't notice it unless you were looking for it. And my God, does the game look gorgeous. So if it wasn't for DLSS, I would not play Forza Motorsport because it just looked that shitty. And it's one of those games where it's like a racing simulator, it doesn't have to look good, right? Like an iRacing still looks like it runs on a potato, right? Because they use all the power to do the physics engine or whatever. And I think that's cool in that case. But when I'm sitting down with a controller and I'm playing like an arcadey type racing game and I just want to fuck around, I want it to look good, right? I want to look at the cars. I want to see the beautiful reflections and the really nice paint with the metallic in it and everything. I want to see the environments pop. Like, that's why I love Gran Turismo 7. Gran Turismo 7 is gorgeous. I think, honestly, Gran Turismo 7, even today, I still think is the best looking racing game there is. Like, better than Forza Motorsport 8, better than Forza Horizon. I personally think Gran Turismo on the PS5 is like the best of, like, all around. Car models, interiors, when you put it all together as a package deal, I think it's one of the best looking games, and definitely in VR. As far as every racing game I played in VR, that is the one. Like people go out and buy a PlayStation 5, a PSVR 2, which these are not cheap things, right? Like they'll go out and drop like a fucking $1,000 between the PSVR 2 and the Pro and the game, right? Yeah. Just to play that one game. Never playing anything else on the console. It's literally just to play Gran Turismo.
Bro, $550 for the VR 2? What's the Quest? What's the Quest 3?
It's right so now? Expensive, man.
What's a Quest 3 is about $500 too? I would probably get a Quest 3.
Oh yeah. So Adam said, yeah, Super Res also fixes the anti-aliasing errors. Yeah, and that's what I noticed. Is the super resolution did look better than anti-aliasing, but it was way slow.
I'm waffling a little bit. So I as I've said many times, I've got a 3080 Ti. I also happened to have a I'll call it extra. I invested in a couple 4070 Supers to build some PCs. I've sold one. I haven't put together the other set that potentially could have the 4070 Super in it. But part of me is like, man, should I jump to the 4070 Super? They're fairly equal-ish in terms from what I'm seeing from like Tom's Hardware and stuff. The 4070 Super is maybe about 10%, 5-10% better. But I get better ray tracing. I get the frame generation.
Now hold on. Which card is it again?
Power.
Which card is it?
I have a 3080 Ti Founders Edition, and I'm wondering if it makes sense to drop the 4070 Super. It's also Founders Edition instead. It seems
the 3080 is still a really capable card, dude. I got one in my bedroom PC that I do 90% of my gaming on.
It's not quite a horizontal upgrade because, like I said, like you do get a little better. The ray tracing's better.
Yeah.
Frame generation, that kind of stuff. And power draw. But I'm like,
you know what?
I'd wait. I gotta reinstall Windows and shit and everything. So like, I'm gonna have to tear the thing apart and all this stuff.
I have a recommendation. I have a recommendation. Wait. Yeah. And the reason why I say wait is because when the RTX 50 ships to like the general public, which I don't know when that's happening. Like, when's the date when anybody can just go buy one of these things? I know they're in the hands of all the reviewers right now, so it's got to be like a week or two before people can buy them or something.
I think the sales. I won't say a full date because I don't know if that's public, but I know that they announced end of January at CES.
Okay, so when that card comes out, just like Nvidia always does, the day that it comes out for sale, there's going to be a driver drop for everybody, for all graphics cards across the board. True. That driver drop includes DLSS 4, which will work on your 3080. It's not going to have all the features the 5 series does, but you should get the enhanced frame generation. So even though you're only generating one intermediate frame, you still should benefit from the lower input latency and the better image quality. So I would check and see how much more performance you get with the new version of DLSS out of your 3080, because you might get as much as like depending on the game, as much as like 30 to 50% frame rate increase just from the new DLSS. I'm looking it up right now, trying to figure out which feature is available, because I know there's certain ones that aren't. Oh, you're right here. I got it. Okay, the supported tech stack for the 30 series is the same as the 20 series. You get DLSS ray tracing reconstruction, which is new. You get super resolution beta, and you get DLAA beta. And this is all the way up to the 3090 Ti. And then on the 40 series, you get, DLSS frame generation enhancement. Okay, so you get the ray tracing reconstruction and the super resolution on the 3 series, but you do not get the new DLSS frame generation, not even the single frame generation. So you're still going to have the DLSS 3, frame generation stuff on the 3 series and the 2 series. So yeah, I'd say yeah. I'd say as long as you're cool with DLSS and you're not super sensitive to it, it'd be worth it, honestly. Like the frame rate's going to be massively higher, as we've clearly seen with DLSS 4 enabled, right?
David Morton mentions about the VRAM. He says like Super S is limited by 12 VRAM and went from the 4070S to the TIS, and there's a big upgrade going from 16. Even my 3080 Ti, I max out the games that I play, and it barely uses like 8 gigs of VRAM. I have never run into a VRAM problem with any of the games that I play, and I play in like newer games. Like I'm not, So,
but how often do you turn on ray tracing? Because ray tracing is when you really kick the VRAM in the ass.
That's probably the kicker. Is I rarely will turn ray tracing on.
Because like for instance, I enabled ray tracing. What was I playing yesterday? Oh yeah, Forza Motorsport. I was playing Forza Motorsport. When I enabled ray tracing, the VRAM went up to 10 gig.
Yeah.
So when with ray tracing off, it was using like I think 6. So it almost doubled.
It makes sense that 16 gigs is required for Indy because they I think they require ray tracing to be.
Wait, which card were you looking at? Which 4 series or which 5 series card were you thinking of?
No, I have a 4070 Super that I could just drop in.
Oh, the 4070 will get the enhanced frame generation. So I would say try that.
Oh, interesting.
Because you will get the DLSS. You're only going to get one in between frame. You're not going to get the multi-frame. Sure, but you're going to get the enhanced version, which is better image quality. You're going to get the ray tracing or the ray tracing reconstruction, which means if you enable ray tracing, it's going to look correct with the intermediate frames.
Yeah.
And you're just going to get one extra frame instead of like 3 or 4 or whatever the 5 series does. So I'd try.
Be worth it.
I'd try it honestly, because it sounds to me like in order to make the 5 series look like really beefcake and them betting the farm on DLSS, it looks like they put a lot of work into optimizing DLSS to give you the highest frame rate possible. Now, everybody that has a 4 series card is still going to benefit from that performance jump, just not as many frames. So you could see it. You could still see a significant performance jump because, and plus they're also going to optimize the driver for like Bender rendering for the 5 series. So the 4 series being unified driver architecture is also going to benefit from that and see an uptick. And the weird thing about Nvidia I've noticed too is it's not weird actually. It actually makes sense because it's a unified driver architecture. But every time they release a driver package, they have a list of games that they have updates for, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's almost like Nvidia's in lockstep with the games to work together to try to like implement things in the driver that benefit their feature in their specific game to give it the best possible scenario working together, right? So when they drop the new driver for the 5 series, it's undoubtedly going to have a list of games that support DLSS 4, right? And those are all going to be ones that they optimized in the driver. Well, you're still going to get that under the 4 series. You're going to get all the benefits from that. Mm-hmm. So I'd be curious. What you should do is do a benchmark before you update the driver, because I'd be really curious to see if they did a driver update before they did the apples to apples, their apples to apples comparison that they did. Yeah. I'd be curious to see like if they were using like the driver for the 40 series that was the release driver versus the driver for the 50 series that isn't released yet. Because that could even increase the gap further, right? Because their goal always when they present this data is to make the gap look as crazy as possible, right? They want people to believe that the graphics card is like 4x or 5x the speed of the previous generation, which just simply isn't the case, right?
No.
So, but that could be to our benefit, right? If we have a 4 series card and it supports, 4 out of the 5 features, and the only thing it's missing is the multi-frame generation, and we get all the benefits from the games, all the new DLSS 4 implementations, so all the games we were playing with DLSS 3, now when we get the patch for the game and we get the new driver, now we're going to have DLSS 4. So that's going to not just give us faster intermediate frames, that's also going to speed up the actual frame generation itself. So we're going to get more frames per second from the actual game, like real frames per second. And then that means we also get more intermediate frames because for every frame it's generating in real life, it's able to generate one intermediate frame. So if we can get it up from 30 frames per second to 40 or 50, now you're benefiting even more from the DLSS, right? You're not just getting that one intermediate frame. So you get 50 frames per second, you can take it to 100. You have 100, you can take it to 200. If you had 1,000 frames per second, you could theoretically take it to 2,000 as long as you had the headroom and the hardware to do it. Because if it's inserting an intermediate frame after every real frame, which is what it's supposed to do to give you this frame rate boost, right? You're going to benefit from every real frame that's being generated. You're going to benefit equally with the fake frame that's being generated. So yeah, I'd say do it. Roll the dice on it. Put in the 4 series. Load the drivers after the 50 series launch and see what kind of performance you get, because you might find that it works so well. There's just no reason to go to a 5 series.
Like, honestly, I don't know that I would really notice the difference. I'm such a casual ass like gamer in that sense, like, you know. that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, am I really gonna make that? If am I really gonna notice? Probably not. That's really the thing.
For me, I can notice anything under 120 frames per second.
Huh.
I am sensitive enough to it. Like I can tell like immediately, even on my TV in the bedroom, the big TV that I have.
Yeah.
If I, for whatever reason, the game that I'm running only runs at 60 frames per second, because some of the PlayStation games only run at 60, right? They don't even have 120 frames,
right.
Or they have a mode. I'll load it up and I'll immediately look at it and go, wait a second, that doesn't look right. It's almost like when you don't have motion smoothing turned on in your TV, and you can like tell because you're like everything looks like a flip book at 24 frames per second. Here's the funny thing: everybody bitches and complains about the motion smoothing on TV. Like, I understand the input lag argument all day long. Like that sucks. You're not going to use it for gaming. Period. Like it sucks that bad, right? But I can't live without it watching content. Like honestly, the motion smoothing on all my TVs and everything is like cranked up to absolute full when I'm watching like YouTube, or I'm just with a remote control just flipping through apps and watching movies and TV shows. I cannot stand watching anything at under 120 frames per second. And some people get offended by that. Like they're like, the original thing was produced to give you 24 frames per second, and the vision of the person with the purists, right? But I'm like, I love it looking buttery smooth. When it doesn't look buttery smooth, it literally bothers me and I struggle. When I go to the movie theater and I watch a movie, I literally struggle with the 24 frames per second. Like I get noticeably like frustrated, and if I could push a button and turn on smooth motion, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But everybody in the movie theater would take me out in the parking lot and shoot me. But that's just, I like that. And I think that's why DLSS doesn't bother me. And why I use it and I like it is because it's like, as long as it's fast enough that I don't notice lag, I'm getting more frames per second and I'm getting better visual quality. Now, arguably, yes, I'm adding more artifacts and it's not going to be perfect because they are like AI generated interpolated frames. Sure, fair point, right? But just like with the TV, it's smooth. And I'll tell you what, sometimes people are going to lambaste me for this one. You know what I do? I lay in bed when I'm playing a video game or whatever, like, 30, 60 frames per second or whatever. And there's a playback, like I want to play back my race or something like that. I'll actually go into the TV settings and turn on smooth motion just for the playback. Because even though I'm not playing the game, it's the game, right? I'm not playing, so the input lag is irrelevant, right? I hit play, I turn on the TV, flip it over to smooth motion, and then it's like I'm watching this beautiful video at 120 frames per second that was never supposed to play back at that speed. And honestly, there are little visual glitches and shit. Yeah, the TVs don't get it right. Like DLSS is a lot better. If you cannot compare DLSS to what is happening inside of the TV. Because the TV's smooth motion, all it has is the image to go by. That is it. It has one image and then one image ahead to look at, right? That's it. When you're, unless some of them will use more images, like some of them will use up to like 5 or 6 images to like reduce the visual artifacts and then just eat the lag and then offset the audio so that it all lines up. But it looks good, right? To me, it looks good and it looks believable on the TV. But it does add a lot of input lag because that image has to get to the TV. Then the TV has to hold that image, grab the next image, do the interpolation, and then show you the previous 2 images back. So it's like there's always a couple images buffered as it's going along processing. Sure. So you get that input. With DLSS, you don't get that as much because DLSS is in the pipeline, in the hardware, and it's only adding a little bit of input lag because it's able to use the hardware to get the information from the game. Like the game is literally not just giving an image to DLSS on the card and saying, "Hey, make me an intermediate image." It's giving it, like I said earlier, the image without the HUD, possibly a lower resolution image, right? And it's giving it the direction, how fast, what direction the camera is moving inside of the game. Because and there's a ton more. There's weird paths that it gives it and stuff, like motion in 3D space. And using all that information combined with the image, it can produce a much more convincing intermediate frame, much quicker with a much faster algorithm. And it's all running in hardware, so it's not having to go across the bus, run through the operating system software stack, through lossless scaling, grab the algorithm, compute the frame or whatever, send it back, then send it all the way back to the graphics card through the bus or whatever to then send to the monitor, right? So because it's built right there, it's basically on the chip. It's super fast. And I've seen people do testing where they have like up in the corner of the screen, they have the stats and it shows like Doom Eternal is a great game for this, by the way. Doom Eternal has this like amazing telemetry in it where it'll tell you everything. It'll tell you the input lag, how long it's taken for the pixel to get on the screen. Like it does. I don't even know how it gets half the data it gets, honestly. It seems like it shouldn't even be able to access this data without like measuring equipment in real life. But it shows you all this telemetry. And when you enable DLSS, you'll see the input lag go from like 4 milliseconds to like 30. And you're like, damn, that's a lot.
Yeah, right.
But I've tried whipping around the mouse as fast as I can, and there is, I even in fast paced, and it's a really fast paced game if you've ever played. Doom Eternal is super fast, right? It's like, it reminds me of Unreal Tournament.
Dude, yeah.
And it doesn't skip a beat. I don't feel any input lag, nothing noticeable. 30 milliseconds versus the 4 milliseconds or whatever, I have absolutely no perceptual difference between the two, except for one feels a lot smoother because I have so much higher frame rate. And so as long as you stay under that MS threshold, between all the settings that you select on the card, and other things add lag too, right? Like it's not just that, like if you enable anti-aliasing or something, now when it's rendering the frame, it has to add another algorithm on the stack. That's going to cost more time, correct? I mean, so that's going to reduce the number of frames that can be rendered, which then reduces how many times it can sample your mouse and your keyboard or your input device. That's going to add lag. So it's like everything you do on the graphics card more or less is going to add some kind of lag in the system, right? It's just how much is it going to add? And DLSS is a little bit on the heavier side. However, from what I've seen from the charts, if Nvidia isn't like just blowing smoke, it looks like DLSS 4 reduces the, like even with the multi-frame generation, it's like half the milliseconds of DLSS 3. So so it's generating like 3 or 4 intermediate frames, and half the time it took the previous generation DLSS to do one.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Like to me that. So I have, and it's doing that while giving you better image quality, giving you the new ray tracing, the new ray tracing stuff. I think it's badass. So I think a lot of people are getting angry because of the way that Nvidia is marketing it, but I think overall it's a huge win. Like I do think, and I did ask, by the way, because I was wondering about this, and I got a straight answer from Jacob, Nvidia Jacob on X.
Oh yeah.
And so he told me that the reason that the 40 series cannot do the multiple frames, right, is because there's a piece of hardware that is required. It's a timing chip or something that's on the 50 series that does not exist on the 40 series. And that specific hardware, it's like a temporal chip or something like that. That is what allows it to do the multi-frame generation, where it's generating all 3 frames like in tandem at the same time. So that it doesn't matter how many frames it's generated, it gets them all to the buffer like at the same time. Yeah, and that does not exist on the 40 series. And so he said that's the only reason it's not supported. Like every other feature DLSS 4 is supported, just not the multi-frame. And that's why. And I think memory speed also probably plays into it because it's a new generation of memory that's much faster. And if you're generating all these intermediate frames, you need to store them before you can send them to the screen, right? So that means you're storing 3 frames, 3 fully rendered intermediate frames that you have to find a place in memory to store that. And you're not going to use compression because that would slow things down tremendously. So you're basically storing 3 completely raw 4K images for every frame you're displaying. You're putting that into memory. So I think it's a combination of memory and that chip that prevents the 4 series from doing it. So the 50 series does actually have a legitimate reason to buy the card, regardless of whether you get a 5070 or a 5080 or a 5090 or whatever. It's the only thing that can do that multi-frame generation because of that hardware. Now, lossless scaling can work around that. Lossless scaling can give you multi-frame insertion, but you're going to pay for it with a lot of lag. Like, whereas DLSS might have only added 15 or 20 milliseconds of lag for like 3 frames. Yeah. With lossless scaling, you're going to be more in the department of 30 to 40, all the way up to 100 in some games. Because I've seen people like that did entire articles where they played games and benchmarked them with and without lossless scaling, showing the frame rate before and after. And they said a lot of the games, the lag was imperceivable. But there were some games that it definitely was perceivable when it was getting in the upwards of, 50, 60, 70 milliseconds. People started to notice a difference. So, let's see here. Real Sane said, I'm so sensitive to that smooth motion setting. I have a friend that refused to turn it off. So I stopped going over to watch shows, and he said he could come to my place instead. Oh, like you can't stand it. Like that smooth motion bugs you? Some people do get creeped out by it, though. I do know. I had a friend that was the same way, where he didn't like it. He hated the way it looked, and he always wanted to turn it off. Like he legit wants to see the flipbook picture show, right? And his argument was that, like, when they're shooting the movie and the special effects and everything like that, it's designed to. They designed the effects around that frame rate so that it looks correct and has the right amount of motion blur and everything. When the TV's doing the smooth motion, it's just making a lot of assumptions, like you're watching sports ball. and he said that he feels like it makes everything look like the soap opera effect, right? Everything looks like a soap opera. Looks like it was shot on a handy cam. And but the thing is, to me, I don't see it that way. To me, I feel like it adds more because I feel like it's more realistic representation as if these people were in real life, right? So when I'm watching something on a big 74-inch screen or whatever, I want the people to move like I would see them move in a real room, right? I don't want to see this picture book flipping shit. So I prefer it, but optimally there is a middle ground. And that is like the upscaling stuff, or sorry, the upscaling and frame doubling that they do with like full blown AI, like generative AI. There's all these open source projects. I wish I could name one off the top of my head right now, where you can take a video that's like 24 frames per second and up it to like 120 frames per second. And then it does it overnight. It takes like literally hours now, even with a 4090, 100% just crank it. It takes like 8 to 16 hours, but it'll go through an entire movie frame by frame and generate multiple intermediate frames, but it's using like an AI algorithm that really digs deep. It's not taking fractions of a millisecond. It's literally taking several seconds per frame. And it's going through and doing the rendering, and you end up getting a much better result. So there's all these movies on YouTube, if you search around, that you can find. Like there was a Star Trek, one of the new Star Trek movies, somebody did an AI upscale to 8K. It was like 8K, 120 frames per second or something like that. Maybe it was 4K, 120 frames per second, but man, it looked gorgeous. Like it absolutely, it played right. Every frame looked right. There was no artifacts. There was no weird lighting shit. Like it looked like J.J. Abrams' usual shit, right? It just looked like lens flare city.
Hey, I like Star Trek.
I love Star Trek. Hey, somebody's going to want to shoot me for this, but I like Star Trek more than Star Wars, okay? I'm just going to say it. You know, I'm a Star Trek guy through and through. But I do like Star Wars too. I can like them both, but I'm just saying that if I have the choice between the two, I usually watch Star Trek. They're different.
They're different for me. Star Wars is like fantasy. You know, it's more Lord of the Rings.
True, very true.
Star Trek,
there's magic.
Star Trek is actual
literally
sci-fi.
has magic, dude. It's like space wizards.
Well, because like to me, the difference is like Star Trek focuses on the technology part, right? You're reversing the polarity of the patterned buffers and all this, and you know, power conduits and things like that. Where Star Wars, they don't explain how the hyperdrive works.
Yeah, grab the metachlorians and the fucking Kuiper crystal.
That was weird. Too much
magic.
Detail. Yeah. You shouldn't. The metachlorians are what helps force use and stuff. It's too much of an explanation. I don't need to know how the force works. I just need to know. I just know that it surrounds us and infuses us and that kind of stuff. It's fine. Like we don't need a scientific explanation because Star Wars is fantasy. Is like technological fantasy versus Star Trek, which is sci-fi to me.
I will say I did enjoy this, and I think a lot of people probably hate this, but that's probably why I like it. The one thing that I did like is we recently watched, me and my wife binged Skeleton Crew on Disney. Have you seen that yet? So Skeleton Crew is like a Star.
So good.
I loved it. I loved it every minute of it. I feel like a lot of people are going to be mad because it definitely wasn't like Star Wars canon. Like there was a lot of shit in there that was a little wonky.
I want more side stories like this. Though.
I loved
like
it.
Andor.
I loved it.
Andor was great too.
Yep.
For that same reason, I don't always want to hear stories about Jedi and frankly, the Skywalker like legacy or whatever. I want more from. I want like street level Star Wars. I want these like side stories of like how did the war, the Empire War and the Rebel War, how did that affect other things, you know, or even Mandalorian. Book of Mandalorian was great too because of that. There's these side stories and you get to see how the war affected like the rest of the galaxy and things like that. And I like that stuff. Yeah,
I like Skeleton Crew because it was really lighthearted.
Yeah,
it definitely it reminded me of like the Goonies or something like that. Yeah, exactly. It had a very Goonies vibe. I'm glad you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking, dude. It really coming of age cool. Goonies vibe. So and it feels like they dumped a shitload of money into it. Like the special effects, it looked like one of the movies. Like it definitely
practical.
It was so good, so much practical.
Effects.
Yep.
The big spoilers. The big like trash crab thing was fucking stop motion, like claymation.
No way.
Yes. Yeah, you can find it from ILM.
They must have used CGI to like fill in frames or something because it was so smooth. It was so smooth the way it moved.
The motion was done in stop motion, but the backgrounding and stuff is CGI. And I'm sure they pasted over a clean
Yeah,
some
because
of it
it
up.
does. It does not look like stop motion at all. It
There's
looks
no
perfect.
3D modeling or anything of it. It's actual. It's yeah. You can see some behind the scenes footage from ILM about it.
I need
It's
to go
really,
watch
really
that because I really liked it.
So much practical effects was done in that.
We
And
just randomly put it on one night. And we loved it. We fell in love.
That's part of what makes it look so good. Like I can tell, and I think it's just because of my exposure to it so much. I can tell when it's a virtual production stage. The depth is wrong. The depth doesn't look right. There's a scene in
Mandalorian.
I think it was in the Book of Mandalorian. One of the scenes where they're on like Coruscant.
You're talking about where they're using like the Unreal like screens behind them. Yeah. He has the light source and everything.
Some outdoor sines are pretty good, or okay, but so like a perfect example of this is actually in Skeleton Crew when they're there's going to be some little bit of spoileriness. I know I don't know, but they're walking into, it's near the end. They're walking into the place, right?
Yep.
I can tell that I can almost see the line where the practical stage ends and the virtual screen begins because the depth is wrong. The depth is weird. It doesn't look right. Like and like I get it. It's still 2D. It's still 2D, right? Like
I mean, you're literally filming 2D with a 2D camera, so it's like forced perspective work.
I can tell
that's crazy.
That the depth is wrong. Like there's something about the perspective that isn't quite right, and I can tell, and it bugs the crap out of me. Like I'm able to let it go.
So it's like it's like Uncanny Valley. Like the software just doesn't have something perfect, and you're sensitive to it.
It's something weird about it, and I can tell. And there are times where I can't. Where like Book of Mandalorian is really good about that. In like a lot of the outdoor scenes, where like I know just on a intellectual level, I know that a lot of this is done on a volume stage, but it looks good enough. It looks so good that like. It's hard to tell where the depth is, but so much virtual production stuff is. I'm like, that's a wall. I can tell it's a wall, and it bothers me. It doesn't bug me enough to like pull me out of enjoying it, but it's like.
I'll be honest. When I watched Mandalorian for the first time, I had no fucking idea that the virtual stage even existed until I watched like the behind the scenes thing.
Yep.
And then I was like, wait. So when he got out of the ship and it was like you could see forever behind him, like out in a desert on another world, I was like, I figured they just shot that in a desert and like color corrected it. No, he's just standing on a stage in front of like a huge, massive screen. Yeah. And as the camera shifts, it's so crazy. Like when the camera moves, the physical camera moves, there'll be a box on the wall that's right at the edges of where the camera can see, and it completely renders a different perspective relative to the person. It's so weird, dude.
Physical camera is linked to the virtual camera in Unreal, and it feeds its location data.
But you're just sensitive to that. Like you pick up on that when you see it.
There's a lot of scenes that I'm like, that's a wall, and I can tell and it's almost like. It almost gives me the same feeling of like when I watch like soap operas. There's something about how soap operas are filmed that makes it feel like look.
You know what I bet it is?
Fuzzy, but like it looks fake. There's something weird about I can explain lighting or something. And
no, I think you're right. I think you nailed it. I think it's the lighting because here's the thing: they're lighting the character from the screens. That's like one of the things that makes the virtual production really good. Is because they can have extra light stuff, but for the most part. The light comes from the environment on the screens because that way you get reflections and like you can have like a shiny helmet with reflections and stuff, right?
A lot of times they'll have lower res. Sometimes it's just LED panels,
like on the ceiling and stuff.
Monitors, but it'll be like a color, it's just like a lower resolution sort of LED screen-ish for like ceilings and things that are outside the view.
Yeah. So I think what you're probably picking up on is. Even though the light is correct in the Unreal rendering, the way it's transferring to the character on the stage is different. Because think about it. Normally, you'd have like if you were in that environment and there was a sun up in the sky, that light would be coming at you at a very specific angle, bouncing off you into the environment. But now you're standing in a rendering, and the rendering accounts for that. But the light that's actually hitting you, that the camera's seeing, is coming straight from that image. Right to you, and I bet you that creates enough of a distortion that you pick up on that and you're sensitive to it.
Yeah, to me, it's like
because I don't see it. I swear I don't see it.
Perception thing. I can see that like it doesn't go off into infinity like it should, and I'm like, there's a wall. I'm like,
Let's ask chat.
He's 4 feet away from the wall right now. Like he's walking away from the camera, and I'm like, he's about to touch the wall.
Wild.
Like he's right there. I can almost see the line of where the stage ends and the screen begins.
Hey, chat. Anybody else like legit in chat? Like, is anybody else in here sensitive to that effect? Like when you watched, I mean, everybody watched Mandalorian for the most part. When you watch Mandalorian or some other virtual production, like I get that you know that it's fake, right? In the background, obviously, there's going to be things in there that just don't exist in real life, right? But like Ox is saying, are you sensitive to that to where it's like you see something that has depth behind them in the virtual production, but you can clearly see it's a wall, like you see the depth get fucked up? Because that's weird. I do not see it. Like even when I watch like the behind the scenes where they're like doing the camera where it's like warping the screen from the weird perspective, and then they switch to the scene where it's all cut together properly. Like to me, it looks perfect. It is wild.
Have done it super well that I can't tell. A good example. What is it? Army of that Zack Snyder zombie movie that came out on Netflix a while back with Batista.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Army of Zombies or something like that.
Shit, I can't remember the name.
It just recently. It was like 2 years back. The helicopter pilot gal did all of her scenes alone.
Right. Yep.
They digitally painted her back into the film after they fired the original actor, and I did not know. Did not tell a lick of it until after, and I saw behind the scenes stuff. I was mind blown.
It's called Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead. Yep.
They did that amazing, and that's all green. That wasn't like some of it was virtual production volumes and stuff, but most of it was like green screen stuff.
Yeah,
they did amazing work on that.
Yeah, she literally wasn't there. She was never on the set with any of the other actors yet. In all the scenes, they're interacting directly with each other.
Amazing. They did it great.
Didn't they swap out the character because of like some drama surrounding that character or something?
I think so.
Like they shot the whole movie with the helicopter pilot being a celebrity, but then there was like some weird shit around the celebrity, and so they were like, let's just they're like, we'll just overwrite him with I can't remember her name. She has an interesting name. Great
comedian.
Sure, she's hilarious. She does deadpan comedy that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they cut her in as this helicopter pilot, and she's in a ton of scenes where you see everybody in the helicopter, cameras moving, talking to him, eye contact, everything, and you're like, she was never there. Like they were talking to a completely different human being.
So good.
So that's a great example of CGI done right. Yeah. And when I mean CGI, it's like obviously it was her in the performance, but the way that they cut that and lit it. So that it looked so flawlessly perfect, like she was actually there flying the helicopter and doing all that shit. I mean, it's just mind blowing to me. I'd love to see the behind. Oh, Tig Notaro, that's her name, Tig Notaro. And I would love to see the behind the scenes of what it looked like when they were shooting those scenes. Because it had to be her like sitting there in front of a green screen, like holding on to a stick or whatever and doing this. And
boxes all covered in green fabric and things like that. They have some behind the scenes stuff of it. Actually, there's a documentary on how they made the movie on Netflix.
I need to go watch that. Yeah. Hey, I want to thank some people. We got 4 people in the queue here. Yeah. Putch 44, my man. Love it every time you show up. We really appreciate you, brother. Woo! Thank you for the $5 tip. Make me holler. He said, I want to know how to get rid of my curve. You talking about your belly? Was that a belly joke? I hope it was a belly joke, or it might have been something else. But why do you want to get rid of your curve?
Is it a little to the left?
Yeah, I want to make my curve bigger. I don't want to make it go away. What are you talking about? Hey, Pele, thank you for the $22.33. You absolutely generous bastard.
200 sexes, thank you.
Yep, just taking over the stream today. He said, "Hi Jerry, been following you since about 2008." God, that's crazy. That's right when I started. Literally, you probably saw the first video I ever made, which was reviewing.
16 years.
Yeah, I reviewed a mouse. My very first video was reviewing a Sidewinder 3D mouse shot on a flip video camera I got from Circuit City. That was my very first YouTube video. Literally uploaded no editing. No, I edited in Movie Maker. I downloaded from my little camera over USB, edit in Movie Maker, and uploaded it. That was my very first video I ever did. So if you ever want to see my very first video, which barely has any views, like most people didn't find it, but if you do a search for Barnacules and Sidewinder mouse, you will find it for sure. And he said, the day is saved when you and Ox are live. Have a great day. Oh, thank you, Pele. Appreciate that, man. We really do. Hey, we love the compliments. Seriously. Need some positivity in our lives with all the shit going down, right? Modeling Magician, thank you for the $10.32. We really appreciate that, man. Said, longtime fan here. Thanks for the help, Aux. Are we talking about Bambu Labs? I got a few and also work with them professionally. What about the topic? Oh, by the way, I just hit the memory error. I just hit the memory error again on YouTube.
So weird.
And you know what? Somebody in chat said earlier that they hit it in Firefox also, so it's not Chrome specific. That is weird, man. They need to fix that shit. But you've never hit it, right? You said you've never hit it. That is crazy. And I've run into so many people that have it. A lot of people haven't.
Not while we're streaming, not while I'll be watching Gamers Nexus videos or whatever. Nothing.
I'd love to know.
Twitch occasionally, never.
I would love to know, like, what, like in the two groups, what are we doing that we're hitting it and other people aren't? Like, there's some variable we don't see yet. We don't have enough data to do the comparison, but there's some variable that we're doing something that's causing this YouTube bug to show up that other people aren't. But it's like YouTube. You go there, you watch videos. It's like there's not like a lot of people are doing very different things on the platform. The only thing is I'm in the dashboard. Every time it's ever happened to me, I've been in the dashboard. So that's the only thing. Do you ever open up the dashboard and just leave it open in a tab?
Like I don't have access to the dashboard.
Oh, you don't have a dashboard. That's right.
Not for this, at least.
I wonder if I haven't done any live streams on YouTube. Hey, anybody in chat, if you hit the out of memory error or whatever in Firefox or Chrome, are you in the YouTube dashboard when you hit it, or are you just watching videos? That would actually be
Firefox guy was just watching the stream.
That's what I'm thinking, right? So
like I have uBlock Origin installed. Sorry, Jerry, you're not getting my ad money.
No, that's fine. I have uBlock. I have uBlock Origin installed right now too, even though I pay for YouTube. I literally pay for YouTube and I still have it. You know why I have it? I'm going to be honest, because the porn sites have a lot of really bad stuff that pops up if I don't use it. So it's like my internet condom, bro. Got to keep that internet condom on when you're surfing all those nefarious sites. It got
blurry for a second. That was weird.
Oh, it did?
No, my autofocus went weird. That was strange.
That's old. Barnacules is talking about porn again. And demonetized. Me. Oh, Metalhead Man said I literally only see it watching live streams on YouTube. Yeah, so and I never see it when I'm just doing that.
I watched another live stream for hours. Never happens. It's just us. Maybe it's because you're blasting out at 60,000, whatever it is.
It could be. It could be. I mean, it could be multi-monitors. It could be refresh rate. There's some common denominator I need to figure out. Because they're not fixing it. That's the thing. I've reported this to YouTube. Tons of people have, apparently. It's all over the forums. They just don't fix it. They don't even respond to it. It's really weird, man. Oh, look here. So Epoch even said, yeah, I'm just watching the stream and got it. So yeah, it's a lot of people are just getting this, just sitting on the stream watching it. And I got it just sitting in the dashboard. I'm not even watching the stream. I don't even have the stream open anywhere, except for I'm in the dashboard and it shows like a preview of the stream up in the corner, but I'm not actually watching like the stream on the stream page. So it doesn't even matter what page you're on. It doesn't matter if you're watching video on the main page. It doesn't matter if you're in the dashboard. This still happens. As long as you have video on the screen, that seems to be the common denominator. So it's almost like maybe the video playing is loading up a buffer, and then once the buffer runs out, it runs out of memory and crashes the page. But if that's the case, then you should be hitting it too, unless the bug is that we have too small of a buffer somehow. Like you have a bigger buffer than us. I don't know. Maybe you got a bigger buffer than me, man.
I am buffer than most of you guys.
I was just saying, yeah, you might.
No, I'm just kidding.
Why is everything? It reminds me of South Park. America has such very large penis. America has such a very large penis. Very large penis.
My heart will die, so I can't. I need to work on my cardio really bad,
bro. I need to work on the just moving so I don't die. That's where I'm at now.
Clap along to the oldies. Pull up some old Dennis. What's his face? Richard Simmons videos and just clap along.
Seriously, just
it can help.
Yeah,
seriously.
No, any movement is good. No, I talked to my doctor. He even said that too. He's like, dude, you don't got to do a lot. He's like, just when you're in bed, just like move your legs and shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, my back hurts so bad when I move my legs. That's why I'm laying down. He's like, stop being a bitch. No, he didn't say that, but like I do need to start working out because I'm like my knees have gotten so bad now. So it's like, and I never had knee problems. My whole life, never had knee problems. Been a big dude my whole life, snowboard, mountain bike, never had problems with my knees ever. But ever since this joint problem I've been having has been deteriorating, like with the nerves, and it's all nerve problems. It's not like my knee is physically like breaking down and the nerve gets pinched in it. And so all these places where that sciatic nerve runs through my body have become worse and worse pinch points as time goes on because I get these bone spurs that grow in those joints. And it's like, so what's the end game here? Like I'm like, what are we gonna do, doc? He's like, well, when you're in a wheelchair and you physically can't move anymore, then that's when a surgeon will risk going in there and fucking you up because it's like literally 50-50. Like you could end up feeling better coming out of it, or you could end up completely paralyzed because we're fucking with giant nerves that, most people don't want to fuck with. And if anything goes wrong, you're fucked. And the worst case scenario wasn't even paralyzed. The worst case scenario is if they nick the nerve, which there's a high likelihood that can happen when you're dealing with a nerve in a small place like that. They said I could have a burning sensation like I'm on fire for the rest of my life.
Dang.
And all they can do if that happens, because they can't stop the sensation. Once it happens, it's like it's done, right? And so apparently you just have to take massive amounts of pain medication for the rest of your life. And even that doesn't like fix the problem. You still feel like you're on fire. You just can tolerate it because you're so, freaking high on meds.
Oh.
Wait, what?
Uh-oh.
What happened? Hello?
Yeah? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Weird.
What happened?
I don't know. Video just freaked out. Maybe I hit the out of memory thing.
Yeah, everything looked fine.
That was crazy.
That was bizarre. Yeah,
legit. The video thing just like locked up right in the middle of your sentence.
Yeah, nothing happened on my side. I could see you moving the whole time. You're like, what? And I was like, what? What's going on, bro?
Oh, it's better now.
What's going on? I need to pull a Nikado. Nikado can move. I can't. That's the problem. That's a lot of people can't understand is like, I don't have a range of motion, right? I have the nerve pinching problem prevents me from moving or even walking. So it's like, yeah, I can do things to lose weight, but it's like, it's a lot more difficult when you can't physically move without debilitating pain and then being crippled. It's like, I go out and mow the lawn, I get halfway through it and then I'm laid up for 3 days and can't move. And it's like, I can't do that. Like if I keep doing that, that's going to end really, really badly. So I gotta figure something out. I don't have the money for a physical therapist, which sucks because this is like the one time I really would love to have a physical therapist because their knowledge and experience being there one-on-one, because it's different than somebody can advise shit over the internet all they want without physically being in your presence and working with you. Right. But a physical therapist, man, they're amazing. Like I had a couple for other things that I had happen in my life, like a car accident. When I had bad carpal tunnel in my wrists, they helped work on that. And it's like when you're there, they work with you and they see the problems firsthand. They watch how you move. They watch your gait. They look at your medical records. They go through everything. And then they work with you within your abilities and then ride that line without pushing you over it so that you can't keep working. Right. Yeah. And I love that. I would love to do that again. But yeah, they're too fucking expensive. You just had a crash too, Ace? Oh my God, dude. Everybody crashing. Hey, Modeling Magician, again, thank you. Thank you so much for the donation. Also, the Bambu Labs thing. So, Bambu Labs just released a firmware update, and I'm sure you're probably aware of it because you probably already, got the little notification to get it. Let me see if I can pull it up here. But it's more closed source, and they implement more stuff that locks down security on your printer. Let me see if I can pull it up here really quick. I had a tab open earlier and then I lost it. Let's see here. Firmware download. That's December 10th, 2024. No, that's the old one. Where's the newest one? X1 series. 811 support offline. Oh, I guess it's not out yet. Okay, so I guess it's coming. It's not out yet. But there's a couple things that were concerning. They said that they locked down some protocol that communicates with the printer. Gosh, where's the link? I gotta find it now. I gotta find this. It's gonna drive me nuts. Bambu Labs firmware. Let's see here.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this. Just a couple things I've seen on Twitter. Just
okay, I found it. I think I found it. So let's hear. Bambu Labs clarifies its firmware update promises for the printer. No, that's not it. Damn it.
I guess they forked the firmware and now they're like doing their own thing, I guess. It's
like more closed source. Basically, that was the gist of it when I had the thing open and I read the thing. It's more closed source now, which is like not the right direction to be going. Let's see here. Here we go. 1/16/2025. The 3D printer manufacturer Bambu Labs announced that future firmwares for their 3D printers would introduce an authorization and authentication protection mechanism for their connection and control in the name of security. Bambu has stated the following. This change is mitigating any risk of remote hacks, bullshit, or printer exposure issues that have happened in the past and lower the risk of abnormal traffic or attacks. No, what this does is give Bambu way more access to your printer and the ability to do shit that you were completely and totally unaware of. And now you're going to have to jump through their hoops. You're not going to be able to load your own firmware without authenticating with them and saying like who you are and logging into your thing. And then the firmware itself is also locked down. Let me see if there's anything in here about that. They locked down the firmware more. Okay, so the authorization system is going to be rolled out in phases, starting with the X1 series printer. The beta firmware 1.8.03 will be released on January 17th. Okay, so that was yesterday. It said the full release is scheduled for January 23rd, so I guess they did an initial rollout on the 17th. The P and A series printers will get similar updates at an unspecified future date. It says to use printers with the new authorization systems, users must update multiple pieces of software. You must have the new version of Bambu Studio. You must have Bambu Handy mobile app. and you must have the new Bambu Connect application, and it must be installed if you want to use third-party slicers. These software updates are mandatory for users who update their firmware. Failing to update all components simultaneously will result in certain printer controls becoming unstable. Users who choose to maintain third-party software compatibility can continue to do so with older firmware versions, though this will not be an option for new printers. They will ship with this authorization system pre-installed. And again, the authorization system also prevents you from downgrading your firmware, because they can do that now because you have to authenticate with them to get the firmware to update. And I'll tell you why they're doing this. I'll tell you exactly why they're doing this, because there's an open source firmware that you can deploy for, I think it's called X1 Plus, that you can put on your X1 Bambu printers to make them open source. This would prevent you from being able to do that, because once this firmware is on it, when you buy the printer new or you upgrade to this firmware and you can no longer downgrade, this means you also can't put the X1 firmware on there anymore, because now you have to authenticate to get them to send the firmware to your printer securely, and they're not going to let you install the X1 firmware anymore, and the bug that allowed you to install that X1 firmware is no longer going to exist. So that's the problem, is that Bambu is going out of their way, like absolutely out of their fucking way, to make it hard for their customers to have full control of the thing that they purchased. And they're definitely going the whole DJI route. They're doing the same thing DJI does with their drones, right? Try to lock it down as much as humanly possible. Anytime somebody figures out how to do something that's outside of their ecosystem or whatever, they immediately try to shut it down. And the sad thing about this is, like, this is a device that's connected to your network, right? That they can connect to whenever they want. They can pull data from it. They can access your network through it, and it's all encrypted. So you have no way of sniffing the network traffic and seeing what data they're collecting or what they're doing on your printer. There was multiple times in the past where they fucked up something and it stopped everybody's prints worldwide. Or there was another one where they had a print start on everybody's printer, like, in the world, because they fucked something up in their code or whatever, and they did a test pass.
Some weird test thing.
Yeah,
fraud.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why I don't like Bambu printers, is because, one, I still 100% believe, like wholeheartedly believe, but again, without the source code, I can't prove it. But from everything I've looked at and the things they've been caught in the past, I believe that their firmware that they run on their printer is derivative of a ton of open source projects without giving any attribution at all, which is a violation of GPL. So, and also I feel like they also lied a lot. Like, remember when they lied about their slicer? They said that they had their own slicer that they created from the ground up, and it ended up being Prusa slicer, and they forgot to replace the Prusa slicer in the about box. So if you went to help and about and clicked on a tab, it said Prusa slicer version blah 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 blah. So it basically proved that they took Prusa slicer and just put a new UI on it. But all the code in the back was, but they closed sourced it. Then when they got caught, they're like, oh, sorry. Oh, we didn't mean to do that. Oh, we forgot to tell people. And then they open sourced the slicer, but only the shit that they stole from Prusa, not the rest of the code. And that's also a violation of GPL. But the way that they got around it legally speaking is they separated it, where they took their proprietary code and made it separate, like separate binaries that then got loaded and then just released like the Prusa slicer code. Back with their like modifications to the UI. So basically you still didn't have access to take full control of the printer or any of the proprietary shit that communicated with the printer in the way that they wanted you to, right? So, but X1 Plus fixed a shitload of that, right? But now it looks like they're trying to push X1 Plus out, is what it looks like to me. If somebody actually has this firmware, please let me know if this removes your ability to deploy X1 Plus. Because I don't know that to be certain, but from what they're talking about right here, where it's like Bambu will now require you to authenticate with their server to get a firmware in the future. That right there tells me that they did this to block X1 Plus from being deployed and block people from installing their own custom firmwares. And I think that's horseshit. Like, if you buy the printer, you should be able to use it. But here's the thing. Bambu sells you a cheap printer like a lot of companies do. The reason they can sell you so much technology for so cheap is because now you join their ecosystem, right? They can make you use their upgrades, even if they're our third party, because they can encode everything and have a chip on everything that forces you to use their shit, right? They can connect to your printer and gather telemetry, what you're printing. This is something I really didn't like about Bambu printers. Every time you print something on your Bambu printer, it basically tells Bambu servers what you're printing. So if you're working on some custom hyper secret fucking like design, it sends that shit up to their cloud. And so if they wanted to, they can dig through everybody's designs and all their prints. And granted, they're not. Oh, and the other thing too is their software uses the STL. So the STL actually gets uploaded alongside the slice code of the printer, which they can access and can do encrypted transfer back and forth. So every STL that you're printing, they effectively could be copying that to their servers, and you'd have no fucking way of knowing
weird.
it.
I don't understand. Like, it seems like a lot of these bigger 3D printer companies are becoming like HP when they should be more like Brother. And I don't understand. I really don't. I don't get it. Like, 3D printing seems like one of the most open. Like,
that's the thing. It's supposed to be. Yeah,
possibly be. Yep. So I don't understand why.
What I don't like is Bambu printers only exist because they ripped off the community. And don't get me wrong, lots of people rip off the community. The whole point of 3D printing is to derive from what's already there and build on it, right? That's fine. Lots of people do that. There's all kinds of different printers that started with one guy that created it, released it as GPL, and everybody improved upon, right? The problem with Bambu is they take everybody else's hard work, they put it into their fucking shell and claim that they created it, tweak the shit out of it and lock it down, so now you can't do the things that you could do with the open source that it was derived from in the first place, right? Yeah. And now they control everything. They get all your data. They control your printer. If they want to print shit on your printer in the middle of the night, they technically could if they wanted to, because they have that level of access to your shit. And your printer is actually connecting to them. So it doesn't matter if you have a firewall, it doesn't matter if you have a VPN or anything, because your printer is always reaching out and trying to connect to their servers. Your printer, whatever information they want, they can just come back through that connection and get. I want to know exactly what my printer, I want to be able to completely use my printer connected to my local network and send it jobs without it ever having any fucking connectivity to a service or anything like that. I want to be able to log into my printer and be able to see the files that are on it, where they're going. I want to be able to decrypt and see every bit of traffic. I want the SSL keys so I can decrypt every piece of traffic that's going from point A to point B, so I can go through and make sure there isn't anything bad going on. And they refuse to do that, by the way. They didn't tell people how to get their SSL cert, which is bullshit. Like, you own the printer. You should be able to see what data is going from your printer to their servers. But all you can see is the amount of data that's transmitting, the amount of compressed encrypted data. You can't see what the actual data is. And I think that's horseshit. And they can easily tell people how to extract their SSL keys. You can do it to your web browser on your computer. So why can't you go on there and grab the SSL cert and then be able to put that into your packet sniffer and like Netmon or whatever, and then you'd be able to decrypt the packets and see the actual like plain text data that's inside of them. Well, not necessarily plain text. It could be like structured data and stuff and STLs and stuff, but you'd be able to actually access and see the physical data and extract it. I don't trust Bambu. Bambu has made a lot of bad moves. They lied about a lot of shit. I don't like it. Model Image said, because of the hacks, really, I have to change security protocols and passwords in the last few weeks more than ever. Could there be a connection to it all? I mean, there could be, but I honestly don't think they're doing this for security purposes. There's a million people out there that have 3D printers that are completely open source on their networks that have no need to connect to servers. If your Bambu printer is vulnerable to attack, it's vulnerable to attack because they keep that shit connected to their servers. Like, they're keeping a line of communication open that they can access. They have their own usernames and passwords that you don't have, that they can use to access the shit and gather data and telemetry. And for, customer service reasons, got to get the logs and stuff. I just, man, I don't like it. I don't trust them. They've lied too much to the public about their slicer. There's too many features that showed up in their thing that they just renamed to something else. Like, what was it? Input shaping and all this other stuff that it's like clearly was created by the community that's under a GPL license. And they're like, oh, but we created our own version of it from scratch, so we don't have to give attribution. Prove it. Show a third party your source code. We don't have to see the source code. Go find a third party that gets paid, signs an NDA, looks through your source code, and verifies that there is no fucking similarities between your source code and the source code that's on GitHub for these projects that do exactly the same thing as what you're doing. And of course, they're not going to do that. They every time anybody's asked, they just ignore it. If you upgrade your Bambu firmware and then block the servers in Pi-hole, you lose your ability to print. Isn't that fucked up?
Yeah,
isn't that fucked up? Like, if your printer can't talk to a server, you can't print on your printer. That's stupid.
That's what I mean about the HP thing. Like, if we're going to release an update that, like, if you have old ink, you can't print anymore. And like that, it just is so weird. I don't understand why. And maybe it's not a lot, I guess, but it does seem like there's been a couple 3D printer companies that have been taking that sort of route, and it is really weird to me.
I wonder if X1 Plus has said anything about this. Let me see here.
So weird.
X1 Plus firmware. I want to see if anybody's commented, because this is a really active project. Okay, last update was 3 weeks ago to the project, like code check-in. Let's see here. June 24th, 2024 was the X1 Plus 2.0 release. Okay, installation instructions. Okay, how to clone the repository. How do I get started? It tells you how to do the whole thing from end to end. And by the way, if you have X1 Plus on your printer right now, you have nothing to worry about. However, if you upgrade to the latest Bambu firmware, from that point forward, you won't be able to put on X1 Plus or go back, as I understand it. So it's one of those situations where it's like, do not, like, it's like with Nintendo Switches, you want to jailbreak them or whatever, and you're like, oh shit, I can't, because it's, you know, it's past the firmware where the bug that they exploited was, and I can't go back because they fixed the firmware so that you can't do that. It's no longer an option. So you're boned, right? And so they're doing the same thing here, it looks like, with Bambu, where it's like, oh, we're going to put a secure firmware on your box that now requires you to not just download a firmware and flash your printer locally. Yeah. You have to log into our servers and ask for the blessed permission, and we'll put the firmware on your box, so there's no way for you to fucking do it yourself. It's like, that's not a security thing, not at all. You should be able to do whatever the hell you want with your printer. Let's see here. Robert Rittenhouse said, yes, you even fucking warned me, Barnacules. I did finish my Voron, though. Awesome. Yeah, my Voron still needs to be finished. I love my Voron. I've been so fucked up lately. I've been struggling. This is the thing. It's hard. And I don't want to show people because I'm literally embarrassed. This stream, every week I do this. I get up here because I know Aux is going to be here. And so that drives me that no matter how much pain I'm in to get my ass up here. But I have to take a nuclear dose of pain medication to sit here for 3 or 4 hours. And I know that the second I get out of this chair, I'm barely going to make it downstairs.
The TENS thing not working anymore?
What's that?
The TENS thing not helping anymore?
Not like it used to, no. The pain's gotten so bad now that it barely touches it. I also need to get new pads for it. That's the other thing. Honestly, if I just got new pads for it, it'd probably work a lot better now. It's one of those things I just got to be reminded, right? Because I got it sitting right here. Let me lean down and grab it here. This thing right here. So and I even did a 3D printed mod to plug it in because I was burning through a 9-volt battery every 2 days. So now I have a 3D printed insert that allows me to adapt it to 9-volt AC adapter.
Yeah,
so now,
right,
so now I get full power all the time. So I just got to get some fresh pads. If I get those on order, then I'll be able to start using it again. But honestly, sitting here and going through the stream, if I had the TENS device on right now, I'd probably feel a hell of a lot better, if I'm honest. So yeah, I'll get those pads ordered today. Thank you for reminding me about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, if you need like a body double to get at least like get a Twitch stream started, at least. Like,
yeah, it's like I don't even. I don't even have my camera. Like I have all these cameras. My new security system that Adam was so kind to hook me up with, and it's like I've had no ability to get out and install even a single camera since he's been here like 2 months ago. Other than the camera he helped me install, and that day that he came out and helped me install that one camera, I was so fucked up and shaking after that when the house collapsed, didn't get out of bed for 3 days except for to use the bathroom. I was bad. I was really bad. Last night I was in so much fucking pain that I was in bed literally crying. Grown ass man curled up in a ball in his bed, fucking tears rolling out of my eyes. I was in so much pain, and I hate have my wife seeing that. So it's like it's the most painful thing in the world. I just don't want anybody around when that shit happens, and so I'm worried that's going to happen on stream. So it's like once a week I take a nuclear dose of my pain medication. I get my ass up here, sit in the chair, I get through it, and then afterwards, as soon as I get out of this chair, I know I got enough time to get downstairs, maybe drag myself into bed, and then I'm in for a hurt locker. And it just sucks because that's repeated so many times that now it's like the expectation in my head. It's like I just know it's coming, and I hate it. But I will say this is what I love about Tech Talk is you and I were talking, we get passionate about things and we get distracted, that even though my hip is absolutely fucking on fire and I am so uncomfortable, I'm so focused on our conversation and chat and everything like that it allows me to ignore it for a period of time. And then as soon as I stop the stream, it all just rushes at me at once. It's like overwhelming. But there is something to be said for distractions for pain.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a lot of pain, the worst thing that you can do, I can tell you right now, because I do it all the time, is just sit idle, right? Unless you're going to sleep, if you can get any sleep when you have chronic pain, take it whenever you can. Even if it's a nap for 15 minutes, take as much naps as you possibly can. But when you're sitting there and you're writhing in pain, the worst thing to do is nothing, because you just sit there and hyper focus on it, and it compounds and compounds and amplifies. It's like if you can do something to distract yourself away from that pain, oh my God, that's like the best thing you can do. But sometimes the pain gets so bad that you're past the point where you can do anything. Like all you can do is turn on a TV and look at it, right? That's about it. You can't even, sometimes the pain gets so bad you can't even freaking compute what's going on the fucking screen, you know? But I will say right now, I actually feel better than I usually do today. So I'm gonna call today a good day, but then again, I never went to sleep, right? So I still haven't slept since yesterday. So we'll see how things go afterwards. But yeah, it's fucking, dude, it just sucks. And so what I need to do is just get used to the idea that the pain's not going away. Doctor said they can't fix me, unfortunately. I can't, and I couldn't afford it even if they could at this point. So I'm past that point. So my only option at this point is I need to just do the grin and bear it. I need to figure out how to focus enough every single day to at least stream for a couple of hours, and in a way that I can ignore the pain, put a smile on my face, and just fight my way through it, and then just deal with it afterwards. I have to figure out how to compartmentalize it. And that's what I'm working on right now. And I think that is possible. I think that's something that I can actually get to. And then once I do that enough, I think it'll be one of those things where it's like, if I can do that enough and I can get in that frame of mind and I can do that, my body expects it and knows this is the time when I have to ignore the pain, then it'll get easier and easier and easier. And hopefully the pain will be easier to tolerate and it won't compound. You know what I mean? So, but we'll see. Time will tell. Right. Daniel Frost, thank you for the $17, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, man. He hooked us up. He said, I also prefer Star Trek and Star Wars, to be honest. Here's some sexes. Nice super chat, all the support in here. You guys have been awesome today. You guys have been absolutely awesome. Like looking at the dashboard. Yeah, seriously. It's like let me. Oh, geez, that scared the shit out of me, bro. So yeah, no, dude, we really, really do appreciate you guys. That is freaking awesome. Like here, I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've had 10 super chats today. That's been awesome. Thanks. You guys are freaking awesome. I love your faces. It really does help. I will have to go. Yeah. No, you get out here, bro. Yep. Yeah. No, having a late start, that's on me, not on you, bro. That's all good. But hey, next week we got another opportunity to try to start on time, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, get out of here and enjoy your weekend. I will be out of town. Well, I might do my foreign correspondent thing. Here, I'll let you know. Well, that always. You know what? Are you going on vacation somewhere? Yeah. Oh, fuck off, dude. Just go do it. I'll cancel. Go do something else. You enjoy your trip, dude. Don't even bother. Okay. All right. So you guys heard it here. He's X'd off. So next week I'll either solo or not do anything. I'll let you guys know. All right, get out of here. Enjoy your weekend, man. Bye, everybody. I appreciate you. I'm AuxxZillary everywhere. Follow me on places. Hell yeah, man. Look in the video description. And he's out. I love his little AI generated picture I did there, man. So awesome. Let's see here. You just have to keep it together until you can upload yourself to a cyborg body. Right, Ian? That's exactly it. I do think that here's the thing. Like every day I tell myself, I'm like, they're going to come up with a medication or they're going to come up with some kind of treatment or some kind of technology that's going to make me at least not be in pain. That's the thing. Like, hey, if my mobility's fucked, it's fucked. I can prop myself up in front of a camera and do my thing, right? It's just the pain. The pain is the thing that fucks me. So it's like if I can just get that pain managed continuously, where I can wake up and function throughout the day with minimal pain, even if it means I can't move and my nerves aren't fucking working or whatever, so be it, right? But I just got to get through the day without pain. And then I'll be in a much happier place. I'll be a much more positive place. I'll be able to, there's so many things I want to do. This is the thing I hate is like when you're in pain, it's like, you're like, man, I really want to do that. Or you have an idea and you want to act on it. And this used to happen to me all the time. It's like an ADHD thing, right? It's like, oh, I got to do that. Squirrel. Oh, good idea. I want to go to like last night. It was like 5 a.m. I'm laying in bed, can't get to sleep because my back's killing me, right? And I'm laying there. So I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, dude, what if I took that lossless scaling thing, put it on a different GPU in the same computer and used it to frame double the other graphics card without slowing it down? I could effectively get some, simulation of DLSS on some, very small level. And I was like, man, I really want to do that. I was like, I can't get to sleep. I'm just going to go upstairs and do that. I got up out of bed to go take a piss and I was hurting so fucking bad I couldn't go upstairs. So I just went back and laid in bed and I didn't go to sleep. I just laid there until at 10 a.m. I got out of bed. Actually, it was 9 a.m. I got out of bed because I just couldn't get to sleep. So I just got up. And, but yeah, I really wanted to do that. But then when it got to the point of implementing it, like I was super excited about it. And then the pain just completely overshadows it. And you're like, yeah, no, I can't do it. And then you're like, ah, fuck. It's like, because it's like, it just takes all the joy out of it. Like there's so many times I want to program and it still happens to this day. I'll be laying in bed and I'll just come up with a really good idea. And I'll be like, oh shit, I just solved that. Like, oh man, I think I know how to write that function now. Oh wait, I have an idea for how I can, do that thing. And, I'll be like, oh man, I'm just going to whip that out. Nope. You get moving, fucking pain just overwhelms you. So it's like seriously, like not even being able to stand